Good morning and welcome to the Morning Constitutional. We're here to have some fun with you today as the world burns. How's everybody doing today?
Enjoying this little snowstorm we got. Got 7 inches so far to dig out.
Oof.
Damn.
I'm living the dream, just living every day like it could be my last and making sure my ground harness is nice and sturdy.
I am also living the dream. Quick kind of housekeeping note. PeerTube is down. So, I don't know how long. I don't think too many people use it anyway. But if you're trying to watch the show on PeerTube, PeerTube is currently down. This is why I stream to all these platforms at the same time. This is the thing with alt tech. I remember I was talking to, I think it was Aaron Clary. He was asking like some pointers, and you have to do it this way. I understand, like, if you're a mainstream streamer and you're on YouTube or Twitch or, something like, even like Rumble, you can't put all your eggs in that basket because they can deplatform you, they could get DDoS attacked, so, and also I think it's probably a good habit. We need to break ourselves of the habit of having, like, the one place we go to for everything, because
centralized systems.
Well, yeah, because it creates choke points and it creates vulnerabilities. Because if they can target that place, people are like, oh, where'd TFM go? Oh, I guess he's gone. I guess he's dead. But if I stream to 6 platforms simultaneously, which I do, and, if you can't find me on one, you could always check another. I know some people, like, they check YouTube or they check MigTo.tv, and that's all they do. That's fine. But if for some reason you think the show isn't there, also I post links on Locals and Merovingian Club. So if you follow me on Merovingian Club or Locals, I also post links when I go live. So use whatever platform works for you. I know, like, some people, they would tell me how they miss when I was on Twitch, because Twitch has, like, an app on their Roku so they could watch it on their smart TV. You know what also has an app for a smart TV? Odyssey. So, like, I mean, MigTo.tv doesn't, but Odyssey does, and I'm streaming on Odyssey. So different platforms have different
Rumble
pros and cons.
also does as well.
Oh, like, okay, well, there you go. So, like, different platforms have different kind of strengths and weaknesses. So, like, you just have to kind of break yourself of the habit of just thinking about, this is the platform I go to and only this platform, and if I don't see anything, it doesn't exist. Because then that kind of gets you into this bad habit of only getting your information from one source, and then if that source gets compromised or attacked, you're just completely blind.
Yeah, especially in this age of censorism.
Yes. Also, I found out, well, this isn't confirmed, but there's strong indications. So I'm still banned on Twitter, which is weird, because everybody else isn't. But I still am. And I don't think what I did was that bad. Like, I photoshopped smiles on Captain Marvel in 2019.
Clearly, that's a heinous crime in today's world.
Well, no.
It's crazy that everybody else has been unbanned. Like, pretty much everybody.
Oh, so I got some information that I think I know what it is. MGTOW content is still being suppressed on Twitter. So I'm on the list. So that's probably why I'm not. That's why my appeals are being rejected and why I'm still banned. A guy. Now this is just like third-party information from like a forum. A guy basically screen capped it and sent it to me. A guy created a Twitter account, like a fresh Twitter account, didn't have any followers, posted some MGTOW memes, and then his account got deleted. Just like that. So very unlikely that, like, someone reported him. It's probably just a bot. So they have bots that are still on the lookout for MGTOW and suppressing it when they find it. I'm kind of surprised Andrew Tate was allowed back on Twitter. I know he's not a MGTOW. It might just be the acronym. Maybe it's just the acronym. Like, you can... Because Andrew Tate basically says kind of some of the more... Like, if you take all the shit I say, you take, like, some of the more, like, normie-friendly things I say that aren't, like, too controversial. That's basically all Andrew Tate does. He just says the shit I've been saying for years, except minus some of the really controversial stuff. But he's on Twitter. But I guess because he's not a MGTOW, I guess
he's a traditional though.
He's also
He's
Muslim.
a traditional conservative, and he's also Muslim. So
sure.
you have to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah. My point is, though, that's probably why I'm not on Twitter and why I'm never going to be on Twitter. It also is like, it kind of shows you what they fear. Because, with Kanye and the noticing, you could name the Jew all day on Twitter. No one fucking cares. They'll screen cap you and signal boost, but they're not going to delete your account or ban you for naming the Jew.
Well, they just banned Kanye again.
Well, I think, didn't he leave voluntarily, though, like after his last little shenanigans?
I don't think so.
Okay, I don't know. Well, I know they banned him before because that was because of his weird Star of David swastika thing, which apparently is a real thing. Like, it's not just something he like made up. It was like, that's a thing. I don't know. I don't even know. Kanye's he's an odd duck. Anyway, the point is you have, like, they're going after.
You got money.
Oh shit! Oh no!
Atlas Joe donated.
My bad. I forgot to close that tab. I apologize for that lack of professionalism on my part. Anyway, I just want to juxtapose this. Like, people always talk about, oh, you can't criticize the Jews because they control everything and they'll shut it down. But there are people, talking about it on Twitter, and they're still there. I'm not. I can't talk about feminism or,
So the problem is, like, freeing men. So, like, literally everybody else who's allowed to talk about shit is just controlled opposition. Is that what we're going with?
Well,
I don't know.
heresy against the progressives.
I think because there was I don't have the video. I should have saved the video. There was literally a town hall for YouTube. It had, like, I don't know, it wasn't the CEO, it wasn't like Susan, it was somebody at YouTube talking about how they're going to be cracking down on 3 groups in particular. They're going to crack down on Nazis, conspiracy theorists, and talking monkeys who want to take women's rights away. Like, I'm like, wait, that's oddly specific.
Wait, did they actually? No,
They didn't say.
Are you pulling my ground on us, TFM? What are you doing?
They didn't say talking monkeys, but I'm dead serious. They did say they're going to crack down on Nazis, conspiracy theorists, and people who don't believe women deserve equal rights. Like, that's all they said. Like, who else talks about? Yes. So those are the top 3 targets. So YouTube is like, we got to stop the Nazis, the conspiracy theorists, and that guy. Get that guy. He's like the third most wanted person.
Guy.
So yeah, I'm basically in the same camp. Like, because you know how they won't let Alex Jones back on Twitter, like he's permanently gone. There's clearly a list of, like, these people are, no matter who you let back on, you cannot let these people on. And I'm on that list. I'm on the super do not let back on under any circumstances. Lock in a dark
You're
cave
on
until
the
the end of time.
naughty.
I'm on
Do
the
not pass go.
Yeah, I'm worse than the worst. I'm on the worst of the worst list. Like, you have white nationalists, you have, like, people, on Twitter, they're fine.
You can have literal fucking Nazis and mass murderers on Twitter.
You can name
can't
the Jew.
have a turd flinging monkey.
You can name the Jew on Twitter. You can talk about the Pizzagate on Twitter. You can talk about anything on Twitter, but you can't talk about.
You can have literal
MGTOW.
pedos on Twitter.
You can't talk about MGTOW, and you can't talk about how men and women aren't equal, and women don't deserve equal rights. That's not just haram. That's like super haram. That's like super ultra mega ultra instinct god tier haram. The hair's turning all kinds of colors. That's how haram it is. So that's the latest update on why I will probably never be back on Twitter ever. I'm kind of surprised DLive let me back on because they banned
Must be
me.
getting pretty desperate.
I was about to say they're probably super desperate.
Well, but here's the thing: someone actually, I don't know if they work for DLive or they were just trying to, like, put a worm in my ear. So look, I had some good exchanges with DLive before I was kicked off. I'm pretty sure they were told to kick me off, like, because again, I'm on the list. I can appreciate that. So how about an apology. How about don't send me a form email just letting me know I've been unbanned. How about you send me a personal email, confirm, hey man, we didn't mean to kick you off. We were literally ordered to by the CIA. They had my daughter at gunpoint. They said, ban the monkey right now, motherfucker. Ban the monkey or she dies. There's nothing I could do. That's what happened. I'm like, okay, I can respect that. Thank you for telling me. But, I still...
Also, really
that's all I
quick
want.
before we get to sidetracked sponsors.
Yes, the sponsors. All right, our sponsors are the Dollhouse, purveyor fine waifu and waifu accessories. Check them out. The Way of Monkey book, available on Amazon, hardcover, softcover, audiobook, with an art book, PDF, and a Kindle version. So for whatever platform you're using, really good book, really good art. Check it out. Hardly Heroes from Shadowmare Comics, fantasy, Dungeons and Dragons, comic book, what's not to love. If any of those things sound interesting to you, please support the sponsor, support Shadowmare Comics. They're on their 7th issue. This isn't like vaporware. This isn't like a project that they'll do someday that they never deliver on. They're already on issue 7, and they're about to release the first 6 volumes as a trade back. So this is a real live project with real creative talent, good art, good stories. It's not full of the message or any of that bullshit. It's not like a MGTOW Red Pill thing either. It's just an earnest adventure about people. It just doesn't have any weird subversive leftist bullshit in it. And that in itself is subversive in and of itself. The fact that you're not promoting like boss, girl boss energy with everything you do. Anyway, Merovingian Club, check them out. Follow me on Merovingian Club. It's basically a Twitter alternative. Now, they were DDoSed last week. There was an attempt to take down the server, but it's up now. It's fixed now. It won't be the last. And again, it's weird. Like, I'm not relevant anymore. We have 160 viewers right now. I'm not relevant. But these people won't let me go. Like, they have to hound me to the ends of the earth. To get rid of me, I guess. I don't know. Like, go bother Andrew Tate. Go bother someone more relevant. I don't know why. Like, what are you getting out of this?
Go bother Sneeko.
Go bother someone who actually has an audience worth your time. You're gonna bother me with my audience of less than 200 people? On this asshole of the internet? Like, I'm on like the fringes of alt tech.
Seriously, how dare you?
Well, you're on the fringes of society at large.
Well, but
we are the Ghost Walkers.
Well, but the other thing is like, I'm not a threat to anyone. Like, I'm not part of any kind of Make America Great Again, right wing anything. I don't have the backing of anybody. I don't even have access to Twitter after Elon Musk bought it. I'm still banned from Twitter. I have no access to the mainstream. So, what are you doing? Like, don't you have someone more important to bother?
You're also freeing men from the system that they're trying to preserve.
But that system, here's the thing. Look, I hate to be that guy. But I'm not breaking the system. The system is going to collapse all by itself no matter what happens to me. It's like I'm telling you what's happening and why it's happening, and I'm telling you what you can do, not on a societal level. I'm not advocating political change. That's not going to happen. That ship has sailed, hit the iceberg, and sunk to the bottom of the ocean. So I'm not advocating any kind of collective action. You as an individual, shit's going to get really bad, and you need to start preparing, and you need to start looking out for yourself on an individual level. But the system as such, you guys who hate me and think I'm a piece of shit, you won. It's all yours. You got the whole thing. You got the whole, not just America, the whole West. The West is yours. You can spread all the LGBT, all the gay. You can indoctrinate all the children. Give them all gummy worms in their blood. It's all yours. You can enjoy it for the rest of your life. I'm just like the people I'm saving. Like we're again, we got less than 200 viewers. This is nothing. 200 views. Like, America has what? 300 million people? You're really 200? You're going to begrudge 200 people?
Well, yeah, because in their world, they want everyone to be the same.
Yeah, but it just like
Any dissonance must be quashed
But isn't
immediately.
but my point is, isn't there a more productive use of your time? Like, aren't there, I don't know, dissident voices that have a much bigger audience than me, or who has access to the
didn't they just
mainstream?
hire like 70,000 new people with nothing to do other than pour over useless bullshit?
I guess I don't know. Well, are you talking about the IRS people they hired, like the big IRS kill teams? Well,
aren't they like cyber trained as well?
No, okay, no. That's for taxes. So yes, everyone's getting audited. Like, you don't hire 70,000 IRS workers to audit the rich. They get audited every year. So they're not hiring them for the rich. They're hiring them for you. So everyone's getting audited. The government's going to squeeze you for every penny. And they're going to fine the shit out of you if you forgot to, like, carry a one or something. And that's just the government needs money. All this shit's running out. Again, I didn't look. By the way, I'm not to blame for any of this. I didn't cause any of these problems. I'm just telling you what the problem is, how to solve it. It's really simple. You want the government to run out of you want the government to not run out of money. The government needs to cut spending. That's what there isn't an amount of taxes it could raise that will fix this. Also, you can't fix this by printing money either, and you can't borrow it. In fact, with the escalating war with Russia, this Cold War we're in with Russia, our pool of borrowers is going to start shrinking dramatically. You're going to see like 2/3 of the world stop buying U.S. debt because they're going to be depegging from the dollar, and that's going to be bad for, like, no one's going to buy our bonds anymore unless we drastically jack up the interest rate. So all this is going down. It's going to go down pretty quickly. But there's nothing I can do to stop it. I'm not even telling anyone. I'm not advocating anybody do anything to try to stop it. You can't stop it. It's too late. We've passed all the exit ramps. So all you can do now is save yourself, save your family, and look after your community. That's it. That's all we can do at this point. So, like, I don't like trying to silence, and silencing me won't change anything. Nothing will change if you silence me. Nothing will change if you deplatform me, if you deplatform my sponsors, or if you go after the platforms. Nothing will change. Everyone who's going to die will still die. All these countries that are going to go bankrupt and hyperinflate are still going to go bankrupt and hyperinflate. Nothing will change. I guess there's maybe an attitude of, if I'm going down, everyone's going down with me kind of thing. Like, I'm going to take you all down. I'm not going to let you save yourself. You all have to die with me. Maybe that's all it is. It's basically kind of a, if I can't have it, no one can type of thing.
I don't think they believe the system can fail in the first place. I think they're like kind of in delusion.
Well, yeah, they're clearly in a stage of the grief cycle. Because you have like denial and anger and bargaining and all that. Like, they haven't reached acceptance. So they're still kind of in the anger and denial. There's probably, look, the grief cycle doesn't just go in a straight line. Sometimes you double back. Sometimes you go in a circle. Sometimes you revisit
look
a lot
at all
of
these
emotions.
dipshits that think like inflation's going to go down eventually.
Well, so I just got an argument with someone this morning about this. The inflation rate will surely go down. If you look at the stagflation of the 1970s, we didn't have double-digit inflation every year. There were actually some years where inflation went to like 5% or less. And this was back before the government started cooking the numbers to make the inflation look better than it was. So we're talking before all that, inflation went from like double digits to 5% to 8%, like it went around. And this was all during the same stagflationary period. And most of this is just due to base effects. Base effects, basically, like, it's complicated, and you're talking about a multi-year process. So we're not going to have 5, 6, 7% inflation every year. Inflation is going to go down when it comes to the rate of change, but the prices won't come down. It's just the prices will stop going up as quickly. But then you're going to have aggregate demand, which is going to lead to... And also, by the way, the money printing hasn't stopped and will not stop. We're in the middle of a Cold War with Russia. Like, we're printing billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, everywhere. So anyone
Actually,
thinking
quick question: Is
what's
that
up?
story about the U.S. printing like 80 trillion for the EU true, or is that?
That's what that is those are what are called swap lines. So you have different central banks which have different currencies. Now, the Bank of Switzerland can't print dollars, and the U.S. Fed can't print Swiss francs. But we create swap lines between all these Western central banks where basically we agree that our money is good and we could swap it for each other. And so you basically take out a loan with each other and agree to borrow on behalf of each other in order to keep costs down and to be as efficient as possible. And so you have it's like if you have a home, you know what a HELOC is, a home equity line of credit. It's basically an open loan that you have. Now, if you don't borrow anything from that line of credit, you don't have to pay anything back. It's basically just an open loan. And that's basically what these swap lines are. They're basically open loans between nations that allow them to borrow from each other. And because of the strength of the dollar, and we also bailed out Switzerland. And what was the other one? It was Credit Suisse and Deutsche Bank. And so we gave them... It was all via swap lines. So we gave them dollars. They gave us Swiss francs. It's fine. But yeah, that swap line system is $80 trillion. That's how big it is, which is incalculably big. I can't even, you can't even wrap your head around something as big as $80 trillion. Anyway, so that's fun. Okay, that's all. I don't need. I'm just shocked. I'm shocked that I'm personally I'm that high on the list. Like me, just a guy who reviews sex toys and has a waifu and talks about philosophy. I mean, yes, I do talk about taking women's rights away, but the thing is that's objectively how you raise birth rates. And you agree with me because whenever there's a study or anybody's talking about how do we fight global warming and overpopulation, the conclusion is always to give women more power, to give women more rights. That's how you lower birth rates. That's how you fight global warming and climate change and overpopulation, is you empower women. Everyone will admit this. So we all admit, we all know, we're all singing from the same hymn sheet that empowering women lowers birth rates. And that's not even controversial. We celebrate it. So when all these countries are wondering, hey, no one's having kids and our population's decreasing and our society we're going to be demographically
How do
replaced.
we
What do we
increase
do?
the population?
Yeah, this isn't rocket science. Like if A causes X to happen and you want the opposite of X, then you need to do the opposite of A. If empowering women lowers birth rates, then disempowering women raises birth rates. And we also know this. We know this in innumerable ways. If you ban abortion, which is taking away a woman's right, it's just one right. But if you ban abortion, birth rates go up. You just keep going. Don't stop at abortion. You gotta pump those numbers. That's how it is. That's the only thing that works. You may not look, we've tried everything else. Countries have tried everything else. Every conceivable scheme to try to raise birth rates without taking women's rights away. And they've all failed. And then you have patriarchal groups like the Amish, the Orthodox, the Mormons until recently. The Mormons cucked out, as they want to do. But prior to, I think 10 years ago, they had a birth rate about 4, which is really good. It's double the national average. But then they decided not only to empower women, but also to recognize LGBT rights. And now, fucking Mormons are fucked. So it only took 10 years. 10 years, they cucked out. They're gone. That's it. GG.
Well, I mean, it took the Catholic Church, 40, 50 years to get women as the leaders of the church now?
I don't think wait, are there female Catholic priests? I don't think that's a thing.
Yes.
No.
What? No, not
not.
Roman Catholic. I'm sure there's maybe Lutheran or some kind of thing, but not Roman Catholic.
Not not Roman Catholic per se, but like within the many branches of Christian faith, like there
Oh,
is a
sure.
lot.
Oh, yeah. There's like 99% of Christian denominations have completely cucked out. They've all empowered women. They've embraced feminism. They've embraced LGBT rights. Soon they'll embrace pedophilia and grooming. They'll be like, Jesus said, suffer the children to come on to me. So come on to me, children. And they like let the boys masturbate on them or something. I don't know. Like, that's what's going to happen. You know it's going to happen because that's what always happens. The right kicks a fuss and they shake their fists in the air. And then if you basically jumped into a time machine and you went 10 years into the future, you would think that the right was the left. Because the modern right is just the left from 10 years ago. So right now, what's the big thing? Grooming, child molesters. In 10 years, the right's going to be all about pedophilia and fucking kids. And the church is going to be like, we have to recognize, child marriage and adults marrying 8-year-olds. And that's what Jesus would want. If you don't accept these 40-year-olds with 8-year-old fucking child brides, well, then you're not a real Christian. I get, you know it in your soul. I'm just telling you what you already know.
If I live to see that day, I am losing my mind. I will make the news.
Look, here's the thing. I'm going to disagree. Like a lot of the atheism dipshits with their fucking fedoras, they can go eat a dick. Religion has a useful purpose, and that is to protect and enshrine the values of a society. Out of all the institutions of a society, religion is the slowest to change. It's the one which kind of embodies tradition the hardest. And that's why it's important for a society. You don't want to abandon religion entirely because then you lose touch with your traditions and your values. But eventually, given enough time, given enough generations, religions do change. And you've seen this. We've had 100 years of feminism. And what happened? All of the religions eventually cucked to feminism. And now we have... When did LGBT shit really take off? In like the 80s, right? I think.
Well, I wouldn't say it completely took off in the 80s, but probably in the 90s.
80s, the 90s. So it's been a couple generations. And now you're seeing churches beginning to cuck to LGBT stuff. And so now the newest thing is pedophilia. And it'll just take a couple generations. In a couple generations, the churches are going to start endorsing pedophilia. There's no line. Because all an institution is just people. So a church, it's like you can't rely on a piece of paper like a constitution to defend your rights. It's just a piece of paper. People defend rights. People defend values. People defend tradition. So if people become more leftist over time, everything becomes more leftist. It doesn't matter what your constitution says. It doesn't matter what your Bible says. People will just change the institutions because all an institution are people. So look, again, it's going to happen. So getting mad about it, swearing revenge, that's not going to do anything. You have to focus on yourself, your loved ones, and your community. We're going to have to rebuild everything from scratch. This whole corrupt edifice is going to crash, and we're going to have to be the ones who rebuild everything.
Yeah, you don't have to participate in the system. You could just be like some of these Mennonite colonies and just fuck off to the rainforest.
We have are we gonna? I don't think we're gonna cover this. There's something happened. We're not gonna cover it in the show. I thought about covering it, but there was a couple cops were killed in Australia recently, where a guy.
I have all the details on that.
Okay,
it is in the article list as well.
Oh, is it? I thought. Okay. Yep. Okay. So I didn't know if I took that out or not, or if we. Okay, we'll cover that later. So we're gonna go over what happened, and we're gonna have some lessons learned about do's and don'ts. We're gonna
Halsey, can you mute your mic?
We're gonna look back on what we can do better to make sure that these sorts of incidents don't happen in the future. Because here's the thing, I want you to protect yourself, and I want you to maintain your freedom, but not dying is pretty important too. So if you go off grid and then you get into a firefight with the police and you get gunned down, well, that kind of defeats the purpose of going off grid and keeping a low profile. So
Well, there's a lot of backstory behind.
I know
this story.
I'm oversimplifying for the sake of brevity. But we're gonna go over lessons learned or what we could do differently. I want you to survive, and I want you to protect what's important to you, and I want you to outlast this system. The system has a shelf life. We're already at the end of the economic cycle. We're printing shit tons of money. We've alienated the international community by weaponizing the dollar against Russia. Countries are de-dollarizing. All that money is going to turn around and come back into the U.S. economy, causing horrible inflation, the likes of which you can't even imagine. And it's going to be so bad, so quickly, and no one will know what the fuck to do. And if you're not preparing now, it's going to bite you in the fucking ass and kill you. So that's what you need to focus on. But alongside that, you need to keep a low profile, keep your head down, your nose clean. Don't talk shit about the government. Don't do anything that will cause the police to come to your house. Don't start stockpiling guns and explosives. Just, you got to do things peacefully and legally, and just separate yourself. And if you start it can get bad quickly. Like a few mistakes, and you're gonna end in a bad way. And then then it's over. Then you're fucked. Then what was the point? You did all this work. You created all this stuff in order to live peacefully off grid, and then the cops are coming, and there's a firefight, and then it's over. All that was for nothing. All that preparation. You would have been better off just living in normie land, and just getting your gummy worm shot. All right. Let's do a couple super chats and then we'll get started. We have a lot to talk about, so
yep,
we're going to try to get through this quickly.
Atlas Joe donated $5. U.S. is spending billions on NATO and EU to maintain facade of unipolar world as they lose Europe. When do you think they will run out of money to even do that? Normies are triggered by Twitter changes whilst Q-tards are inventing Elon theories. It's going to be interesting to watch Public and Cathedral win dealt first loss. Also, Elon married Hurd, so don't expect MGTOW sympathy.
Elon didn't
Oh
marry
no,
Amber.
not Amber.
I thought he had a baby's mama with some Twitch streamer or something.
First of all, he's got a whole bunch of baby mamas. I think he has something like 12 kids. And he was dating that woman Grimes for a while.
Yeah,
Grimes.
Grimes.
He was with Amber Heard.
I know he cheated with Amber Heard while she was with Johnny Depp, trying to frame him for domestic violence. Just so you know, this kind of shows like Elon Musk is he's pretty smart, I would say. He's definitely, despite being clearly autistic, he's very charismatic, which usually you don't see in usually autism and charisma, they don't go together. They're like oil and water. Somehow Elon Musk pulls it off. He's got all these babies mamas, and why would you hook up with somebody? First of all, there's the whole cheating thing. Any woman who will cheat with you will cheat on you.
100%.
If she's with Johnny Depp and she's fucking you on the side, she's giving you a preview of what she's going to do to you when you're together. She's going to fuck around with someone else behind your back. But number two, she's also a conniving, manipulative piece of shit who tried to frame Johnny Depp for domestic violence, lie about him, and ruin his movie career. And why in the app? I don't care how many kegels she does, what she can do with her pussy, or how firm and juicy her tits are. Nothing is worth that.
She shit on his fucking bed.
Look, seriously.
Also, I don't see any news articles of Amber and Elon marrying. I'm seeing the exact opposite of them never marrying in the first place.
Well, but even if they didn't get married, the fact that Elon Musk was fucking around with her, that's Elon.
Elon isn't the smartest person with women. He's literally just a fucking blue pill nerd.
Yeah, I don't know. Elon, my dude, my bro, my broski. You need to stay away. This is there's normie women who have their normal levels of female nature, and you got to watch out for them. And then they're just ticking time bombs of toxic femininity. And that's Amber Heard. It's the only thing worse than dating someone like Amber Heard is dating a female divorce lawyer. That is, you might as well just cut your dick off and just let yourself bleed out, because that's how fucking retarded you are if you fuck around with a female divorce lawyer.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking retarded, not gonna lie. Never got called retard.
Like, that's like the frog marrying the scorpion right there.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, okay, let's actually address Atlas Show's comment. So, the NATO EU thing, it's clearly fucked, and they're relying on all kinds of propaganda to make you think it's not completely fucked. You have, I mean, the energy crisis. Here's what's crazy: the energy crisis isn't going away, and the West is decided to double down on climate change. And they're like
quadruple down.
Well, and
yeah,
now
they're full communist,
and they're also shutting down farms in the name of shutting down. Just so you know, this is what's so fucking dumb. Now, the spoiler alert to all this is about nationalizing the food and energy sector. That's what this is all about. All this bullshit about climate change is retarded. We'll actually get to that later. The central argument for all these actions actually is falling apart in real time. But they're still going to push forward with it anyway, because none of this has shit to do with the climate. This is about nationalizing the energy and the food sector so the government can control it, so they can seize the means of production, and they can control you. Because if they control food and energy, they control everything. Like, people need food or they die. Industry needs electricity or it dies. So if you control the food and the energy, you control the lifeblood of the people's lives and the commerce and the economy. Like, remember when during COVID there was like a gym that refused to shut down, and
it was here in New Jersey.
Yeah, and they cut their power. They cut their they couldn't do anything legally to make them shut down, so they just turned their power off. It's like getting deplatformed, but with electricity. So imagine they don't have to take your speech away, they just take your food away. They take your electricity away until you starve to death or freeze to death.
Oh, they proved that with the trucker convoy. They were willing to stay there forever. They didn't care. And then they took their bank accounts away and the bank accounts of the people that brought them like coffee. And it was over in less than 24 hours.
Right. No, well, so cutting people's bank is one thing. You could always barter. But if they control the food and the energy, you're dead. It doesn't matter how much money you have. So this is the goal. And the goal is the enslavement of the people. And unfortunately, the people are nowhere near prepared, or even if you explain to them what's happening, normies are fucking stupid. They will not acknowledge what's happening until it's slapping them in the face. Like, I learned this month. Like, natural gas crashed the other week because there was some model showing that it was going to be, we're going to have a mild December. And
it crashed lower than it did before, like, the election.
Yeah, yeah. It was under $6, like a whatever the unit of natural gas is. It was under $6 in December because a model showed that it was going to be warm, and then a fucking cold front moved in, and then it skyrocketed, and then it I don't know what the fuck's going on. It's ridiculous. But it's like the normies, they're in fucking December. It's winter, and they're like, well, it's not snowing right now.
Yeah,
and then
right.
And then it snows, like, oh, it's snowing. Shit, we need natural gas. Like, why didn't you buy it before, dipshit? Like, it literally they have to see the snow, they have to touch it, they have to taste it. Then, like, oh, it's winter. Now I get it. Like, yeah, it happens the same time every year. It's not like a surprise. It's not like, oh, shit. It's not like fucking Game of Thrones where, it sometimes happens or sometimes doesn't. No, it always happens the same time. It's not a surprise. Anyway, normies are dumb, so they're not going to do shit until the tyranny is already at their gate. And then at that point, they're going to switch from, oh, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist and that'll never happen, immediately to, well, now it's too late. We might as well do what they say. Like, immediately. Like, within the same breath. They'll just immediately pivot from, oh, you're a retard, that'll never happen, to, oh, they're here, time to surrender and go to the concentration camps. So all you can do in that scenario is not be there. Separate yourself from these people before they get you killed, and just save yourself. That's all you can do.
Oh, I guess Elon Musk did date Amber Heard in 2017.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
he dated her, but he didn't marry her.
Well, good, because that's again. Like, I understand crazy pussy is good pussy,
Pretty
but
much.
it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Especially that one. You come home with a dookie in your bed and her standing there with a knife.
Well, okay. So the dookie. Sometimes you fuck a chick in the ass when you pull out. There's like a little backsplash, like you basically like something happened while you were going.
You didn't see the photo, did you?
I did. Well, no, I
And
don't
that's an
need.
unintended consequence.
Yeah, it's like a queef. It's like oops. Oh, looks like something happening.
This was not an accident. This was a
Like
full-grown fucking turd.
when you're getting like soft serve ice cream and then you flip the lever up to stop and the ice cream keeps coming out. It's like
For at
that.
least a little bit.
Yeah, you got a little bit of ice cream in the tubes ready to come out. Like it's like that. You can't get too mad. You just change the sheets. You move on. When you're fucking a chick in the ass, there's going to be some cleanup. That's just you're going to have to take a shower. It is what it is.
It's just the collateral damage.
It's it's the cost of doing business.
But World's Man donated $5. No, TFM, you are not the only one still banned. Plenty of people are. I am. A smaller YouTuber I know is. Rikita told me it's probably 10k followers and up. While Sargon is praising Musk, I'm constantly reminding him the amnesty is a lie. It was all a gimmick for good PR, but only really big accounts have been let back on. I will
That's
keep
totally
shitting
not
on
true.
Musk until we get that motherfucking amnesty. Also, did you mute POA.SD instance? You never respond to should I say, senpai.
No, I do mute individuals. So on Merovingian Club, because it's part of the Fediverse, I occasionally attract some retard on like there's a lot of Nazis and racists, and it's fine. Like, I'm willing to be a good neighbor and banter, but sometimes it just gets really annoying. And so I just mute them. I don't ban them. I don't like mute the instance. I just mute them individually because I don't want to have my time wasted by them anymore. But I've only had to do that a couple times. But I've seen you, Buttsworld Man, so I don't respond to you because I just don't have anything to say. Unless you ask me a question, I generally won't respond. And there's no like button. Like, you can favorite a toot, I think it's what it's called. You can favorite it, you can respond to it, but you can't just like it and move on. So if I don't respond to something...
You can repost to it.
They call them
liking
toots.
it.
Yeah, but I don't want to necessarily repost something. So I might see something and like it, but there's no like button, so I'll just move on. And it's not because I'm blocking you, it's just because I don't have anything to say. So anyway, I agree. There are now. Here's the thing. I know Halsey's been restored.
I've been restored. So is almost everyone I know.
Right, and you didn't have 10,000 followers.
I had 40,000 followers, but now I have like 2. Like it basically unfollows you from like almost everybody, and it also unfollows you from anyone who is also banned. You have to refine them. But now I'm back to like 2.
Oh,
Sargon
shit.
only had like 10 when he came back.
Well, anyway. Oh, well, look. So I think in my opinion, I think there's basically, because you saw this with Alex Jones. Like, someone asked Elon Musk about Alex Jones. He just flat out said Alex Jones will never come back, and he wouldn't explain.
He said it like with vengeance. Like, he was pissed.
Yeah, like unequivocally, no Alex Jones ever. And so I think there's a list of these people will never come back, and I'm on that list because my ideas are too dangerous. Taking women's rights away and getting a waifu, that's just beyond the pale. Shut it down. All right. Yeah. I think we should be able to move on after
Atlas
this
Joe
one.
donated $5. I remember the article you mentioned about cracking down on women's rights. You are definitely on a list. Kind of funny, because the Intel community trained you and then you reverse engineered their number one long-term problem and they couldn't handle it. Also, MGTOW is dead on YouTube with no new guys coming through. Your message was effective enough to ban on site. Funny.
Yeah, and the thing is it's not like I not only don't advocate for any kind of violence or anything, I try to talk people out of that. I try to tell people, because for example, what's his face, the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. A lot of people like to meme on his manifesto about how industrial civilization was bad for society, but like
Manifesto is actually very good.
Right. That's the point I was leading up to. He actually had some really good ideas. The problem was he thought mailing bombs to people was going to somehow accomplish something. What he should have done is he should have found like-minded people, and then he should have created a community and lived with it. He could have been like the Lorax. He could have been out there, one with the trees or something. And he could have had his own little community where they could have like respected nature and talked about ideas, and they could have been very happy. But instead of choosing that path of trying to build communities and positively affect and help people, he decided to mail bombs to people. And then his brother sold them out, and now he's in jail. So, like, there are people who have ideas that you might consider dangerous, but as I'm not advocating them to take the path of the Unabomber, I'm advocating them to take the path of Lao Tzu. Like, if you don't know the story, Lao Tzu basically just left. He saw his country in decline. He just fucking deuced. Legends say he went to Tibet, but he just fucking dosed out of China and just left. And no one knows where he went or what he did. And he wrote the Tao Te Ching on his way out. And that was it. That was the last anyone saw of Lao Tzu. He didn't hurt anyone. He didn't come back with an army and try to like make China great again. He just deuced out. And maybe he did great things. Maybe he lived a quiet, obscure, anonymous life in Tibet. Who knows? We'll never know. He never wrote anything or left anything. He just wanted to be left alone. And I think, I'm using Ted Kaczynski as an example because he clearly wanted to be left alone, but so he should have just made that his focus. The world is pretty big. There's plenty of places to get lost in. The bombing thing, that was dumb. Like, there's, mailing bombs,
yes
going on spree shootings, writing manifestos and killing people, that will never accomplish anything. That will only get you.
Man. Would anyone know who he was if he wasn't the Unabomber?
Well, but that's the point. Like, who gives a shit? Like, again, so Ted Kaczynski.
I think he wanted to get his message out, which is a good message. Stupid way to do it, but.
Well, so there might have been some.
But he was also clearly nuts.
Well, but so maybe some edgelords read the manifesto who normally wouldn't have read it other than because he killed people, and they read it. But those aren't the people who would actually do the things that Ted Kaczynski wanted to happen. Like,
no,
edgy,
that's definitely true.
Yeah, edgy teenagers that would read a manifesto of a serial killer aren't the kinds of people who are going to go live in the woods. So he would have been better off targeting his message to like-minded people and starting some type of community rather than trying to appeal to edgelords with a fucking death wish. So, like, the thing is, so my message, even if it's controversial, at the end of the day, I'm advocating people to just separate themselves and live peacefully and be good neighbors. So even if you disagree with everything I stand for, I'm not a threat to you. I'm not advocating. In fact, I'm trying to actively talk people down from trying to become a threat. I want people to focus on community and those who they love and separate themselves and live a peaceful, minimalistic life. I don't want people to join militias or, join some kind of cause to overthrow the government or any of that shit. Because all that's going to lead to is their deaths and the destruction of everything they love and everything they built. And I don't want that for them. Like, yes, it sucks seeing your country go to shit. It hurts. It hurts even more when you're a military veteran and everything you thought you were fighting for turned out to be a lie. That stings a little, but you know what? Life has to go on. It's water under the bridge. What's past is past, and you have to move on. America's dead. The corpse of America is basically being drug along. The limbs are falling off. There's maggots everywhere. It smells horrible. It's time to let it go.
Yeah, we're not even Weekend at Bernie's
The
anymore.
necrophiliacs are having a field day.
We've gone from Weekend at Bernie's to Dead Space.
Yep.
That's where we're at the Dead Space level of America's corpse being puppeted around. Anyway, okay. Let's pause. Okay, so the super chats are paused. Let's do a couple articles, and then we'll get back to some super chats later in the show. All right, this is super important, everyone. So the new I don't know, the new track just dropped from Cathedral, and they're going to launch another pandemic. This one is going to target children. Isn't that great? So
Which one are
Hell
we
yeah,
talking about now?
that's a classic one right there.
I'm looking at another one also, so I'll chime in when you tell me which one we're talking about now.
well, this is the Sears one, the severe epidemic enterovirus respiratory.
The exercise they're doing.
Yeah. What
No,
they
'cause
always do.
scientists are also warning that SARS-CoV-2 is going to probably merge with MERS-CoV-1 to create super COVID, which, remember, MERS killed more people than SARS. So they're
But
saying that when they merge,
they're-
it's going to
they're-
be like super COVID.
Oh, so
All right.
they're gonna do like a little fusion dance.
Yeah.
So okay, well, hold on. No, stop. Okay, let me explain. Well, first of all, let me address that, and then we'll go back to the article. Okay, SARS, MERS, and COVID-19 are the same fucking virus. The exact same virus. COVID-19 is literally the third incarnation of SARS, which is why, if you recall, if you were here during COVID, the early months of COVID, I was telling people COVID was going to go away in a couple months because I was looking at the data from SARS and MERS, and everybody told me I didn't know what I was talking about, and COVID was going to be the zombie apocalypse, and I needed to take the L and admit I was wrong. And it turns out I was fucking right. What they did was you had basically a spike.
You're sort of right. Like, just like monkeypox, cowpox, and chickenpox and smallpox are all the same virus. They're different in that they have a greater severity. MERS and SARS and one of the other ones, they're all very similar. I think MERS just had a bit of a higher mortality. And when I say a bit, I mean instead of killing 1%, it killed 1.2% or something like that.
Well, it killed people, but so did COVID-19, but it killed people with comorbidities. It was basically the flu. It was basically they were counting flu deaths as COVID deaths. There was a lot of bullshit. It's all slowly trickling out. The truth is slowly trickling out. But, I was right from the beginning, so I'm just going to,
So instead of, don't do the I was right dance.
I'm not doing that.
I was right
I'm
dance.
not doing that.
Prepare
Okay.
the unexpected heart attack dance, because a paper in the UK says 4 scientists out of Oxford are now claiming that the reason people are having the heart attacks is because they eat too many potato chips, which causes arteriosclerosis and causes the clots.
Well, no,
Classic.
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Anyway, so here's the thing. If you remember, this was like a month ago, it might be a month and some change ago. There were scientists who were recombining Omicron with the original Wuhan strain, and they basically made a more deadly version of Omicron. And everyone was like, what the fuck are you doing? Why would you do that? And they're like, what's happening? And then, of course, now they're like, oh, it's MERS and COVID-19 are going to merge. That's all this is. So that strain they were making last month, they're going to release it and be like, and pretend it was a naturally occurring strain of Omicron that just happened to merge with a strain of coronavirus from 2012. It just happened, Who can say? So yes. So now here's the thing. That's the black pill, right? That's the bad news. Here's the good news. This combination of deadly COVID
doesn't affect us.
Not only does it not affect us, it's not deadly. In fact, so here's the thing. What they did was when they were making this virus in the lab. Now, this isn't even a conspiracy theory. There's articles talking about them making this in a lab from a month ago. You could Google it. So,
well, probably not Google. Probably suppressed it.
Well, I don't know, Alta Vista or Ask Jeeves or Info, whatever the fuck shit there is, DuckDuckGo. Anyway, so here's the thing. They tested it on immunocompromised mice. Now, they tested Omicron against the immunocompromised mice, and none of the mice died, which means even people who are immunocompromised don't die of Omicron. But then they combined the original Wuhan strain with Omicron, and they gave it to the immunocompromised mice, and 80% of them died. However, the original Wuhan strain alone killed 100% of the immunocompromised mice, which means this combination of MERS and Omicron is only going. It's 20%. This is based on one study, but based on that one study, it's going to be 20% less deadly than COVID was originally. So think back to early 2020 when COVID was first breaking out. it's less deadly than that by 20%. So I got COVID in 2019. There was this respiratory infection going around, and everybody was just saying, "Oh, yeah, there's something going around, and it's just this persistent cough, and nothing to worry about. Just go home, take it easy." And then, like a couple months later, like, "Oh yeah, coronavirus is a thing." So I had the original Wuhan strain, and it was just a bad cough that I couldn't shake for like 6 weeks.
The original Wuhan strain was the one I didn't even know I had.
Right. So like we all got it, and then I got Omicron. And look, I streamed with Omicron. I just had to mute my mic while I coughed. I was at no risk of dying. I was at no, like, oh no, what are we going to do? So anyway, that's what's going on. So they created another strain in a lab to basically re-weaponize it, and now they're going to release it, and they're going to pretend, oh my god, we got to lock it down. We got force everyone to get their vaccines, get your fucking gummy worms. So that's happening. Now, so we can move on from that. This other thing.
Let me give you the opposite just to throw this in for you.
All right, go ahead.
For me, I had the original Wuhan strain. I didn't even know that I had it. I just had the antibodies to it when I took an antibody test. Mm-hmm. Then I got the original Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which fucked my whole world up for months. But after I got it, I had gotten the Omicron strain, and it put me down for like a week and a half. Like I couldn't get out of bed.
Well,
so it was worse once I had the vaccine, not before. Before I didn't even know I had it.
By the way, someone told me, I haven't confirmed this with a doctor or anybody, but someone told me you can get a blood test to check for the things that cause the gummy worms. You can detect those in your blood. So if you get a blood test, because those, I actually did talk to a medical person about this. Those gummy worms from the Died Suddenly documentary, they were saying in some kind of debunking thing that those are actually caused by the embalming fluid, because embalming fluid causes the blood to coagulate. But I talked to a guy who actually has a medical background who was saying that no, like those sorts of clots, those take a long time to build up. Those aren't going to build up from like, you know, a cycle of embalming fluid. That's like months in the making for something like that. So anyway, they're full of shit. My point is, the gummy worms actually do leave kind of like there's like
particles.
Particles in your blood.
Coffee grains.
Yeah, they look like coffee grounds. So that those can't be detected, and if you have the gummy worms, there are things you could take to break them up. The downside is it's a rat poison.
It's literal rat poison. Yeah.
Literal rat poison. Now, if you take it, do not take rat poison. Do not go to the fucking pet store and buy rat poison and start eating it.
TFM, my relative took rat poison on based on your advice and died. How could you do this?
The new MMM advice: invest in rat poison company.
No. Here's the thing. So certain drugs have different uses. Like, anyway, like the drug that is rat poison at a low enough dose is actually used to break up blood clots.
Bro, they use cyanide to treat certain maladies. It's just a very small dose of it.
Right.
Botox is one of the like most deadly things on the planet. And
it's botulism. It's botulism. Anyway,
yeah.
So now I'm going to speak very slowly because I don't want to be misconstrued. Do not buy rat poison and start eating it because you think you have gummy worms in your blood. That will kill you. Okay?
You will be dead, and it won't matter whether you have gummy worms in your blood.
Go to a doctor, get a blood test, and get a prescription for the low dose. Well, it's not called rat poison. It's called like Wolfram or something like that. You get the human version of it that isn't rat poison that will break up the blood clot so you don't die of a heart attack. But get a blood test and get an actual prescription from a real doctor. Do not just go to the store and buy rat poison and start like snorting it like cocaine. You will die.
Hemacan, right?
No, it's called Wolfram or something like that. I'm thinking of Wolfram Alpha, like the calculator site.
It's called Wolfram.
Wolfram. Do not buy rat poison and eat it or you will die. Okay? I don't know how else to say it. If you fucking buy rat poison and die and I get blamed for it, I swear to God, I will haunt you. I will haunt you.
Somebody in chat just said rat poison is the last line of defense.
No, you know what though? TFM brings up a funny point because I've said this for a while now. everyone was saying that hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin are both effective towards COVID. Now, you realize the CDC just added ivermectin to their website as COVID treatments. So
What?
yeah,
Yeah, it was always useful, and they use it in third world countries too because it's so cheap and it's very effective. Do you know what the death rate?
Funny?
You look at the death rate. Yeah, I was about to bring up Africa. Like nobody's died of COVID in Africa
because they all take hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin all the time. One's a fucking anti-malaria drug and one's an anti-parasitic, and they're super cheap and available. So half the population gets them from like USAID and all the aid programs they get.
Yeah, because their water is so tainted with parasites that they have to take ivermectin as a matter of course. So they take ivermectin like it's a vitamin. And so when COVID ripped through Africa, like nobody died. That's why we're like up to our eyeballs in orcs right now, is because like, you know, we all need workers because all these boomers keep dying of heart attacks. Now we're importing Africans because they have some kind of magical immunity. No, it's called the ivermectin they were taking because of their shitty water. Anyway, okay.
Hey,
what's up?
TFM, real quick. Do I have mod powers in MGTOW chat or no? Is there no such thing?
I don't. I can give you that. I haven't messed around with that in so long. I don't even know.
That's okay. It's okay.
If someone talking shit in the MGTOW.TV chat or something.
Somebody was like spewing a bunch of like racial shit, and I haven't caught it yet, but
all right.
Someone tagged me.
It doesn't matter. MGTOW TV is not going to put you for racism.
Well, no. What they're going to do is they're going to report MGTOW TV to, I don't know, their hosting company. Like AMR doesn't give a fuck, but they'll report it to like GoDaddy or something. They'll try to get it kicked off, like they did with.
I'll try and catch it.
What's it called?
Oh no, I won't bother because that shit happens all the time. Probably.
It's just another day in the life. But what was a website they shut down recently? They went after their like hosting provider. Kiwi Farms. No, Kiwi Farms was recently shut down because some tranny who was like sending like homemade estrogen treatment to kids behind their parents' back. Basically, Kiwi Farms was documenting all of her bullshit, and she cried about it, and she started this campaign to get Kiwi Farms shut down. And so they went after their like hosting provider and got their website, and they also got them kicked from Cloudflare. So this might be like something to get them kicked off of Cloudflare or something, so they could DDoS the site. It's first of all, it baffles me. We still do not have an alternative to Cloudflare. Like, we have so many tech bros out there. Like, why do we not have an alternative to Cloudflare?
Because it's expensive to develop, and they already have Cloudflare.
Yeah, but most tech bros are a bunch of limp dick pussies anyway that support all this stuff.
Preach, brother.
They are indeed. All right, so a new simulation just dropped. This happened this month. And this new simulation. Now, if you remember, they did what's called the SPARS simulation in, I think, 2019. Well, no, was it 2015? Something like that.
You mean the one that predicted COVID?
Yeah, it was called SPARS. 17, thank you. So in 2017, they did a simulation for what would be COVID, and then a couple years later, COVID happened. And then last year, they did a simulation for monkeypox. And they said monkeypox was going to spring up in May, and then monkeypox sprang up in May. Now, obviously, COVID, it didn't do what the cathedral needed it to do. Monkeypox was a complete flop. You basically gave a lot of gay people fucking pimples around their butthole, but, you know...
No, you're wrong about that. It did exactly what they wanted it to do.
What did it do?
It basically prepared... It gave them the idea and introduced the concept of lockdowns, digital currency... vaccine passports. When they release the next one, everyone knows what's going to happen.
Well, no, but so the original plan was to use COVID like for years. They were going to milk COVID for years to get their entire agenda through. And then
wasn't it like a 6-year thing?
Yeah,
it was like 2024 to like 2020, like 2032 or some shit like that.
Yeah, it was going to be like this ongoing pandemic that would constantly mutate and kill people, and we were going to have to get completely locked down and give all of our rights and property to the government, and we were going to basically do anything it took to be protected from the scary virus. And then in less than a year, once everything got going, Omicron happened and cured COVID, and now COVID is a sore throat. So they released monkeypox, thinking monkeypox was going to jump from the gay community to children, and it kind of did, from the children being molested by their gay adoptive parents. And then when that happened, they shut it down and memory hold the whole thing. And so now it's third time's a charm. So now they're going to release another pandemic in order to push the lockdowns and control that COVID was supposed to do. This time it's called SEERS. Now, the name they give it doesn't necessarily translate to the name the pandemic will actually be. Remember, in 2017 it was called SPARS because, again, it was a SARS variant. So you had SARS, MERS, and then they were going to call it SPARS, but then they ended up calling it COVID and not SPARS. So this doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to call this disease SEERS, but every time they do these simulations in a year or two, whenever they need it, the pandemic happens. So just be aware. They're talking about a virus
magically pops up.
Yeah. Now it's supposed to be worse than COVID, and it's going to primarily affect children, as opposed to COVID, which primarily affected the elderly and those with comorbidities. They're going after young people. So all of the young people who are like, fuck COVID, I'm not getting the vaccine, I've had COVID, it was a sore throat, go fuck yourself. Now they're going to release this on you, which is going to directly target you. So if you're young and healthy and have a healthy immune system, this disease is coming straight for you. Deliberately, I might add, to force
Come
you
at
to...
me. I'll fucking fight it off.
Well, maybe, but I mean, look, it should be clear at this point. I mean, they've re-weaponized COVID. This is their third announced deliberate pandemic.
They're also really fucking shit at it.
They are really shit at it, but they only have to get lucky once. Like, basically, we have to keep resisting and we have to count on variants like Omicron coming along and fucking up their plans, and we have to keep getting lucky. They only have to get lucky one time. If this pandemic doesn't work, they got a fourth one, they got a fifth one. They could do this all day. But all it takes is one of them to work, and then they have all the power, and they lock us in our little bug fucking pods, and we're slaves. So this at the end of the day, I know nothing I say or do is going to convince people who aren't already awake to this. If what I'm saying sounds insane, like, okay, TFM, maybe they did a simulation for SPARS and monkeypox, but this time, this is just an innocuous simulation. This doesn't mean they're going to launch a pandemic that matches the simulation. Now, what happens when they do? What are you going to be like, holy shit, TFM was right? Or are you going to just rationalize, oh, that's just a coincidence? Like, basically, at this point, in December 14th, 2022, if you're not awake, you're never going to be awake. You are deliberately just in denial. Nothing will wake you up. You're going to be digging your own grave and facing the wall, and then you're going to be shocked when that gun barrel is pressed against the back of your head. Like, what? I didn't see this coming. Like, you were digging your own grave and facing the wall. How could you not see this coming?
I dug such a nice hole. Why do you want to kill me? I did good work.
I thought we were well, they're going to be like, I thought we were digging our own holes. Like, what did you think when they were shooting the other people in a line? Like, well, I thought they were shooting them because they didn't dig as good a hole as me. Like, they're just completely... like, these people can't be saved.
I know some people who would have that logic, though. I know some people personally who would be like, yeah, we're just going to dig a hole. Money is money, I guess.
What it is they don't have...
We've all discussed this new level of stupidity. Like as I said, I had someone argue with me that the reason there were no flu cases was because everyone was wearing a mask and social distancing. And then I said, well, then how did everyone pass around COVID? And she said, because no one was wearing a mask and social distancing. Yeah, literally in the same 1 minute, she said that. I just shook my head and walked away. What else can you say to that level of stupidity?
It's not stupidity. It's cowardice. It's cowardice. They don't have the courage to see what they're seeing. Now, this is going to sound stupid. I brought this up before. I used to play a tabletop role-playing game called Call of Cthulhu. And sometimes when you see a monster... because it takes place in the real world, it's not like a fantasy world where monsters are common. If you saw think of like the X-Files. If you saw some weird fucking Swamp Thing monster, like, shoot out a tentacle and grab someone and bite them in half, you would be fucking pants-shittingly terrified. Now, as soon as you got away...
does this all the time.
As soon as you got away from it, as soon as it was out of eye shot, you would rationalize to yourself that you didn't see that. Your mind cannot accept what you're seeing, so you will rationalize it away and just go into straight up denial and deny what you're seeing because it's too terrifying to contemplate and to accept. And that's what's going on. It's not that they're stupid. It's that what's happening is so terrifying that they can't accept it. So they're just retreating. Whatever plausible case they have to make in their own head to tell them everything's fine, that's what they're doing. It's not that they're dumb. It's not that they lack information. It's not that they have a low IQ. It's that they're cowards. And
Makes
unfortunately,
sense.
there's no cure for that. There's no cure for cowardice. All you'd have to do is just shrug your shoulders. You leave them to you leave them to be eaten by the Shoggoth. That's what you do. You cap him in the knee and you run for your life and you let the Shoggoth have him. Because you don't have to be faster than the Shoggoth. You just have to be like not the slowest person the Shoggoth is chasing. That's how you make it out of there. All right.
Now,
Well, I
if
mean,
you
like,
want it,
speaking
am I
of, speaking of the brain rationalizing things that it's not supposed to see, we do this all the time. Every time you see something out of the corner of your eye and you look, and then it just fades or it just goes away, that's your brain automatically filtering out shit it shouldn't be seeing. Like that's why, like, most of the optical bullshit that we see is like fucking crazy. I actually saw this yesterday, right? I was walking along and there was this like tree stump, and like out of the corner of my eye, I swear to God, right, it had like a skull and it was like had fucking humongous like limbs, right? And then I look at it properly and it's just like a tree stump that's been overgrown and the roots are all down there.
That's not
right?
that's the opposite.
I swear to God.
That's the opposite. So in your case, out of the corner of your eye, your brain was finding patterns that didn't exist. And once you got a good look at it, you realized that, oh, this wasn't a skull with giant limbs. This was just a tree. Now imagine you saw there was an actual tree monster with like skulls and, hanging bodies, and it was like chasing someone and eating them. And you saw it and ran. As soon as you got away from it, you just would have rationalized that isn't what I saw. That must have been something else. I couldn't have possibly seen that, because it's just so far beyond your ability to comprehend that your brain will just rationalize it away. You'll just tell yourself you had a hallucination, or you were daydreaming. You'll tell yourself something because you can't accept what you just saw. It's too crazy. It's too terrifying. And so there's a monster is one threat. Now imagine your government is trying to kill you. It's trying to basically do a massive depopulation thing to basically cut the population significantly, and you're on the chopping block, and they're giving people like that kind of shit is equally terrifying, but it's actually worse in a way, because you can run away from a monster. If there's a monster eating people, you can always run away, lock your door, turn on your TV. You're cool. And the likelihood of the monster coming for you personally is pretty slim. But none of us can get away from this. Even if you don't live in America, it's not just the American government. It's all the Western governments.
It's every government.
Well, not every government. This was shitty. So China, of all places, who helped make the fucking virus under contract, they won't give their people the mRNA vaccines. Because China is actually trying to grow their population. They're trying to undo the one-child policy, and they're trying to encourage more Chinese people to have kids. They want a growing population. And so they're like making sure no Western mRNA vaccines get into China. What do they know that we don't? I mean, they only made the fucking virus. You think they might know something? Anyway, so Sears. I'm not talking about the department store. SEERS. It's coming.
Even the fashion's attacking us now.
I know. These department stores used to be the shit until Walmart kind of put them out of business. Oh well. Anyway, so that's fun. New Pandemic DLC's getting dropped. And then we have another. There's two. I have two sources. One of them is yournews.com, and the other one is it's called protothema.gr. This website looked a little bit sketchy, so I was like, okay, I better find a better source for this. But this one actually lists who's involved. So in case you thought this could just be an innocuous, pandemic simulation, who's involved, who's behind this simulation, TFM? I'll tell you. The World Health Organization, Johns Hopkins, and Bill Gates.
Shocked.
Also, there's also governments like Brussels, Belgium. There's some African governments too. But yeah, like we got
Senegal, Rwanda, Nigeria, Angola, Libya, Singapore, India, and Germany, as well as Bill Gates and co-chair.
Yep.
Or what?
Honestly, like they're playing a risky game with this pandemic shit. Like
they're
many
involved.
empires have been broken by a bad pandemic.
Well, no. So if it was an actual pandemic, again, we're not talking about like Ebola, which has like a 50% mortality rate. We're talking about these diseases that have like a 1% mortality rate. So it's easy for them to kind of insulate themselves where they're not at risk. Now, here's the thing. They don't want to kill everyone. They need a slave class. So they're going to kill enough people to scare everyone into giving up all their freedom and all their property and all their rights so the government can own everything and you'll own nothing and be happy. And then they're good. Once they have all the power and all the property and you've lost all your freedom, then they're cool. They don't want to necessarily kill you. They do want to kill you, but they want to make sure that like they control everyone so they can kind of separate the productive versus the non-productive. So, like, what's kind of ironic is all these leftists, all these useless dipshits on welfare who celebrate the left and do everything the left says, once the left has total power, they're going to kill them. Because they know these people are worthless.
They're already killing them
They
now.
also know that they're easily radicalized.
Right. Well, and Yuri Bezmenov warned about this, that the biggest proponents of communism will be the first ones killed when the communists take power. So, anyway, that'll be fun. So, like, it's kind of like Final Destination. No matter what you do, the ending is always the same. The weak always die. No matter what you could vote whatever bullshit you want. In the end, even your own side will kill you because you're just an unproductive welfare sponge and they have no use for you. They'll use you to take power, but once they've taken that power and you're no longer needed, once your services are no longer required, you're going to be like a hooker in Grand Theft Auto. They're going to just run you over and take their money back. Because they're not people. They're prostitutes. They don't have a soul like you and me.
They're lizard people.
They're just vaginas with bodies attached. Anyway, okay, so that's what's going on with the new pandemic. There's now the good news is, well, I don't know enough about this Sears thing. I don't know what to do. Like COVID, I'm not worried about. Even this new weaponized strain of COVID, it's going to be 20% less deadly than the original.
That's a nothing burger. That's enough. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Okay. All right. So I'm not worried about that re-weaponized Wuhan bullshit because I don't care. But this Sears thing, if this attacks young people, if this attacks people with healthy immune systems, that could be bad news. Will this be the thing which causes people to reach fuck it? I have no idea. Probably not. I've kind of given up hope that there's going to be a line where people reach fuck it. I think people are going to go all the way to the gas chamber before they realize, oh shit, they're going to kill us. Like, yeah, when was your first clue? Like, you just figured that out now. Like, oh, I thought they were going to kill everyone else but me. Like, why would you think that? Why would you think they were going to spare you for some reason? All right.
The government said they were going to get all the Nazis, though, because we have a Nazi problem.
Well, you know what's interesting? Here's what's interesting. Like, when you understand the political trichotomy, a lot of things click. Why do leftist governments like communists always rule as fascists? And it's because of values. When you're weak, when you're in a weak position and you're a revolutionary, you value equality, you want reform, you want revolution. Once you take power, you become the new establishment. And the establishment always seeks stability. Because once you have power, you just don't want to lose it. Which is why all communist governments, once they take power, they become fascist. They abandon equality. That's why you never reach true communism, because once the government has all the power, they don't want to give it up. They don't want they don't want their power threatened. So China is a fascist country. You have Stalin. And even the left acknowledges that, they didn't rule as communists. They ruled as fascist. But then they use that as justification. So you see, our plans were never tried. Because every time a leftist government took power, they immediately transitioned to the right-wing establishment. And it's like, that's actually worse. Because basically what you have is, you're going to have a right-wing establishment regardless. So you can have two kinds of right-wing establishments. You can have a right-wing establishment led by the strong and the fit and the a meritocratic right-wing establishment. Or you can have a right-wing establishment led by bitter, resentful losers who overthrew the government and crowned themselves the new establishment, they're just going to destroy everything and burn everything to the ground out of resentfulness. That's why you have, you don't see, you look at a right-wing authoritarian government, you don't get the death toll that you get under a left-wing authoritarian government. And it's because leftists, because they're weak, they're always seeking revenge against the strong. And the strong is just whoever they deem a threat at the time. So it's actually far more dangerous to have a right or a left-wing authoritarian government than a right-wing authoritarian government. Just look at the numbers, look at the death toll. And it's one thing, people like to argue, well, Hitler was worse than the communists because he killed Jews. So? Mao killed way more people than Hitler did. It doesn't matter what your fucking ethnicity is. If the government's going to kill you, they're going to kill you. Who gives a shit what ethnicity it is? But I'm not saying this to try to convince anyone or to try to win over anybody to my side. I'm just telling you something interesting about history. So what's interesting is the left will fight fascism, they'll liquidate the right, and then they'll become the new establishment and they'll rule as fascists when everything is said and done. Now you can be like, no, not my communist party, they would never do that. Okay. I don't know what to say to you. You're stupid and you're going to die. So enjoy the time you have left. Make sure you get your booster. We're all in this together. All right, let's do a couple super chats and then we'll move on to the next article.
Xavier NYC donated $5. An educated economist, a YouTuber, talks about the strong dollar, that as interest rates rise, the shortage of dollars because of less debt creation. As a result, debt contracts denominated in dollars by other countries will kill those countries. As rates rise, there will be a shortage of dollars. He is very animate about this, and I wanted your explanation of why this is not the case.
So there's something to the whole strong dollar, but it doesn't affect inflation. What it does do, it affects the international bond market. It affects the ability of countries to do business internationally in commodities and in contracts that are denominated in dollars. Because these countries have to pay a premium. If the dollar is strong relative to their currency, that's basically a tax on everything they do. So when you're one of the downsides of having the global reserve currency is you don't want your currency to strengthen. If you strengthen your currency, you actually threaten international trade. You actually destabilize the global monetary system. So what can the government do when you have high inflation? Cut spending, idiot. That's always been the answer. Cut government spending. Do not raise interest rates. Do not, that's retarded. But they can't cut government spending because that's how people get elected. That's what the people want. That's what, if you don't give people their free shit, they'll riot. So instead of cutting spending, the government has decided to raise interest rates and strengthen the dollar to export our inflation to other countries in the form of a premium on all dollar-denominated assets, including their own reserve currency and bonds. And it is creating a crisis in the international monetary system, and it's causing countries to depeg from the dollar. You have central banks all over the world buying gold hand over fist because they need something not the dollar to be their reserve currency, because the dollar is fucking them in the ass. Now, here's the problem. Everything I said has shit to do with inflation. Like, this whole strong dollar thing does not affect inflation. So you can't fight inflation by strengthening the dollar. All you can do is destabilize the global financial system, which ultimately this will backfire horribly. When countries, let's put yourself in the shoes of a country that is decoupling from the dollar, or let's say they're not totally decoupling, but they're going to cut their dollar reserves by 50%. And maybe they're gonna take that 50% and they're gonna buy a basket of currencies or gold or something not the dollar. What are you gonna do with all those bonds? What are you gonna do with all those dollars that you're no longer keeping in your reserves? You're going to buy assets with them.
Yeah, you're gonna buy anything in the U.S. that's not nailed down to the floor.
Right. So when you're the global reserve system, when you're the currency of the world, people will want your dollars just to hold them. So there's trillions of dollars out in the world that aren't being used to spend. They're not going in the economy. They're not affecting supply and demand. They're just sitting in central banks' reserves. When these central banks sell their dollars because they don't want them anymore, all those dollars are going to hit the economy at the same time. And you're going to have something called hyperinflation. It's going to be very similar to what happened to the Weimar Republic, where you're going to see just horrendous. This is why they need CBDC. They want to change the system before that happens because they know it's a ticking time bomb, and it's their fault. They did it. It's not necessarily the Fed's fault. The Fed basically is at the mercy of the government. The government refuses to cut spending. And so the Fed really doesn't have the tool. Like, imagine you have to solve a problem and the person who hired you to solve the problem won't give you the tool you need to solve the problem. It's like, hey, I need you to, stop this leak in this pipe. Like, okay, I need a wrench. No. What do you mean no? Like, I can't give you a wrench. Can I get some pliers? No. Well, how am I going to stop this leak? I don't know. Wrap it in duct tape. So now you have the Fed wrapping, grocery bags and duct tape over this pipe to try to stop the leak because they can't use a wrench because the government said no. And in the same way, that's a kind of a sloppy analogy, but the point is, what has to happen to fight inflation in a healthy way is the government to cut spending, which they can't do, which they won't do. And so because they won't cut spending, they're basically doing these really stupid things that try to keep the system going a little bit longer, and it's actually creating worse problems, as one does. It's like, when you ignore your problems, they just get worse. We're at that phase. We're at the ignore the problem as it gets worse phase. So that's going to be fun. But so the whole issue of the strong dollar is kind of a red herring, because the strong dollar doesn't have shit to do with stagflation. And also, the Treasury they already have a plan to buy back their bonds in a bond buyback and monetize the debt. So it's going to be a shit show. But there's already plans in place to deal with the all the different the knock-on effects. It's going to result in inflation, just so you know. A bond buyback funded with printed money is going to cause massive inflation. The end of the global reserve system of the dollar is going to result in massive inflation. All roads lead to hyperinflation. Now, does that mean hyperinflation is going to hit tomorrow or next year? No. These things take years, but we are inevitably on that road. It's going to happen. This is how it always ends, by the way. There hasn't been a country that existed that didn't end this way. So we get to see it. We're going to get a front row seat to the hyperinflationary collapse of the West. All right. We'll do a couple more.
No Wife Happy Life donated $5. R.I.P. Harambe on this monkey day. We never forgot.
Dicks out for Harambe. That's all I have to say. Everybody just if you're in public, don't do this. But let's all just take our dicks out, just for a moment of dicks out. Get some air, get a nice little breeze going. All right, okay, there we go. Was that nice? On this occasion, just to take our dicks out for a few seconds in remembrance for Harambe. All right. Oh, you know what? Before I forget, because I'm going to forget, there was a super chat on Saturday that didn't get read. So I told them, hey, tell me what you said, and I'll read it on the next stream. So let me do that before we get too far along. So a guy wanted me to talk about, first of all, Jordan Peterson. I don't know what happened to him. He's broken. He's controlled. I don't know if it was the drugs or the rehab or his daughter. I don't know what dirt they have on him.
It's his daughter, 100%.
They have him wrapped around their finger. So he's going around sucking Israel's dick, and he's also talking about how men who sleep with women are psychopaths. And so the guy sent me a link of
Well, that's a new take.
Again, this is Jordan Peterson, so I don't know. They got to him somehow, and now he's their little purse puppy, and he does whatever they tell him to say. So he's gone like full cipher, like from the Matrix. He's like sold out to the agents, and he's actively like espousing the bluest of blue pills, and it's really kind of sad to see. But what are we gonna do anyway? So here's what it said. It said. Peterson says the 5% or so of men who have unlimited sexual opportunities are predatory, even though women throw themselves at these guys. He also says that having sex with numerous women makes men psychopathic and Machiavellian. My question is,
hilarious.
What does Peterson think is going on in these sexual encounters? He seems to think that women innocently pursue chads who bamboozle them into bed. Men monopolized reproduction in early human history. Were our evolutionary forefathers predatory psychopaths? So to answer your question, no. So Jordan Peterson, he's a broken shell of what he once was. They got to him somehow, and he can go fuck himself.
Also, you have to remember, Jordan Peterson has only ever had one woman who rejected him 6 times before she finally caved and married this man. Right? You have to remember, Jordan Peterson got rejected 4 times.
What do you mean
by
rejected?
The same woman.
So he
as in
proposed to her and she said
he
no?
pursued her. No. As in he pursued her to date her, and she said no, I'm not interested, and he just kept pursuing her, and she got to the 5th time that he asked her, and she's like, okay, fine, I'll humor you, right? And then obviously she got together with him out of convenience, right? Because there was nothing better.
Like in Forrest Gump. So when Jenny, she's like riddled with AIDS and she's like a drug addicted hippie, and then she finds out Forrest became a fucking Apple billionaire, and then all of a year she's back. I'm back, Forrest. I'm back with my AIDS and my drug addiction now that you're a billionaire. Like, oh Jenny, let us make a retard baby. Spoiler alert for Forrest Gump. They made a retard baby.
Well, okay, so literally, this guy has no idea when it comes to women. He has no fucking clue at all. He is deep in the blue pill, right?
No, okay. So here's look. I look at Jordan Peterson similar to how I look at Tom Likas. Tom Likas was a great man who did great things, and some of the clips from his early work still hold up. They're still solid gold to this day. And then he became something else later in his career, and it's kind of sad. And it is what it is. And Jordan Peterson is kind of following some of his early work. Here's the thing: a lot of boys don't have any kind of father figure. This is why a lot of boys, particularly in the black community, turn to gangs, because the gangs have these cool, tough gang leaders who give them a masculine role model, whereas they don't get that anywhere else, because their teachers are women, their moms are women, all they see is women everywhere, and the only masculine men that they can aspire to are the drug dealers and the gang leaders. And so that's why a lot of these boys, they don't have any other masculine role models. So Jordan Peterson had a good message early on. And he espoused kind of a bastardized version of Stoicism, where you should... Look, his advice, I know we meme on him telling boys to clean their room. But that's the reason why that's good advice is because you absolutely control whether your bed is made. Nobody is in your room but you. So if your room is messy and your bed isn't made, that's 100% on you. So if you're completely not in control of your life, you don't know where to begin, Start with the things you have control over. Make your bed and clean your room. That's just a starting place. If you feel completely out of control, you could start there. And you could look at your clean room and your made bed and feel proud of yourself that you did something. Because you can look at that made bed.
You want to know what's funny?
You can see that you did something. Oh, what's up?
So I was like, I've gotten into the habit of like not sitting meditation, but I've learned that I can meditate while doing menial tasks.
Mm-hmm.
So I just started like reefing through like pages of like those like big I don't know what they call, like the reams of paper that you put into the printer and stuff, right? So like I got a bunch of different colors of those and just dumped them all over the floor, and I just started like sorting them all out, and then I was able to meditate through that while I was cleaning up the mess I just made.
Well, here's what I used to do. Now I don't have the time for this anymore, but I got a push mower. So it has like a reel. It doesn't use electricity. It doesn't have anything or gas. You basically push it and it has a reel on it that makes this blade spin. And I would mow my grass, and it was very therapeutic. And it took a long time, but I would just mow the grass, and it was, again, I called it active meditation, where I would do something kind of menial and mindless. Now you could do this. There's a walking meditation practice where you walk very slowly and just kind of, take a breath with each step, and you just want to be mindful of your breathing and your walking. That's absolutely fine. You don't have to do sitting meditation. Do whatever works for you. Some people rock climb. They find rock climbing to be meditative, because when you're climbing fucking a cliff, you have to be there. You have to be present. You have to pay attention to every sensation to kind of find where to climb, and you have to adapt. So rock climbing is very therapeutic and meditative if you're into that. Now, obviously, not everyone can go rock climbing. So that's why sitting meditation is so popular, because anyone can do it. But anyway,
I'm afraid of heights.
No, I'm not telling you to take up rock climbing. I'm telling you, find whatever works for you. You don't have to do sitting meditation. You don't have to do everything because of this tradition. You can go your own way when it comes to meditation. Anyway, back to Jordan Peterson. So Jordan Peterson, he did have a good message about men taking responsibility for their lives. And I agree with that message. Where me and him part ways was when he talked about men have to take responsibility for women in society without authority. So if men are to be responsible for women in society, then they need to have authority over women in society. You can't have responsibility without authority. And so that's where me and the trad cucks part ways. And now Jordan Peterson is just a husk of a man. And now he's going around telling men who sleep with women that they're psychopaths and they're predatory, like basically calling them rapists. Do you have consensual sex with women? Well, you're a rapist. Like, who does that sound like? That sounds like a feminist, doesn't it? So now you have fucking Jordan
Classic
Peterson.
Feminist.
So Jordan Peterson is basically emerged
Jordan
from his...
Peterson is a broken, controlled opposition, basically.
He went from like kind of a milquetoast trad cuck. Now he's a feminist in sheep's clothing who's also a giant Israeli shill who just sucks Israeli dick all day. So, like, fuck him.
Wonder why.
They got to him. They got to him somehow. I don't know.
What it could be is it could be that his daughter because like he went to Dubai recently, right? Like before he went absolutely insane.
I thought it was Russia.
Right?
I thought he got rehab in Russia.
Yeah. Like he was traveling beforehand, right? And then I'm pretty sure he went to Dubai and his daughter was with him, right?
Okay.
So maybe it was a porta potty situation, and that's what they've got on him.
I don't know. They got something on him because he is just a purse puppy. So again, here's the thing. Just like with Tom Likas, I prefer to remember Jordan Peterson for the man he was, not the man he became. So let's take our dicks out one last time. Dicks out for the man Jordan Peterson used to be. Get the breeze going. Let us all just hold our dicks out for a few seconds. Jordan Peterson, this is for you. You used to be somebody before you sucked Israeli dick and became a feminist. Dicks out for you, my friend.
So, did we want to grab the rest of the super chats, just power through them really quick, or did you want to save them till the end?
Let's see. Let's save them. Let's move on. We got some more articles to get to. We'll get to.
We have a lot of articles.
Yeah, we got a lot of articles. Let's make some progress. All right. Okay. From NBCNews.com. They're getting closer. They're getting so close. The headline reads, POTS, a debilitating heart condition, is linked to COVID and, to a lesser degree, vaccines. So now we've gone from... So this reminds me of a Monty Python sketch where the guy's like, oh, you know, the heart attacks are being caused by tea and video games and heat and definitely not the vaccines. Nope, not the vaccines, not the vaccines. Maybe a little bit. Oh, yeah, just a tiny amount is the vaccines, but it's mostly COVID. Okay, it's the vaccine. Yeah, the vaccine is killing you. We're sorry. We didn't know. We did know. Okay, we kind of knew. But listen,
and what is the vaccine made out of again?
We're trying to lower carbon, and so we had to kill a few people. We're sorry.
5 billion people. It's okay.
Sorry.
We do a little genocide now and again. So yeah,
like that's actually crazy though. Like thinking about it, like if my math is correct, like with the rate of decline with people's health based on the models in the Suddenly Died documentary, we're looking at around 5.6 billion people in the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Dead.
Well, I think they wanted to bring... There's video of people in the World Economic Forum talking about how we need to lower the population to like what it was 500 years ago.
About a billion people?
I mean, it's about a billion people.
They were talking about lowering it by 2. So...
Well, I don't think everyone's going to die within 5 years. I think... Well, here's what I'm going to think. A lot of people... Anybody with comorbidities is going to die. A lot of people are going to just
Everybody has comorbidities, though. Everyone's fat. That is a comorbidity, and it's shown that COVID, like it affects people who are fat and have who are a lot of
but whose fault?
Who are obese.
Whose fault is it that you're fat?
Hey, this is not the time. No, but speaking of side tangent, I'm doing very well at the gym. The routine is doing very well. I'm actually down another 2 kilos. I've lost all my water weight now, so now I'm really feeling the hunger, and I'm really kicking it into gear.
Yeah, I've been increasing my I haven't changed my diet, but I've been lifting weights more times per week. I usually just do everything one day, and then I basically go cold turkey, and then like 3 or 4 days later I'll do it again. But now I'm breaking it up, and I'm doing like more reps, and I'm targeting with different groups. So I do.
That's awesome.
I basically do shoulder and forearm curls. And then I'll ride my bike around the neighborhood. There's like a lake by my house. I live in a nice neighborhood, by the way. It's nice. Got a nice little bike lane around the lake. And then the next day I'll do bench press, and then take a day off, and then I'll do it again. So I'm basically exercising more per week than I was before. Instead of doing everything in one day, I'm kind of breaking it up to get more reps in. It feels good.
More spread.
Yeah, spread it out. Spread the love. Anyway, I'm kind of surprised that they're finally... look how long it took for the media to admit that the vaccines are causing some of the heart attacks.
Almost 3 years.
Oh yeah, so they're okay. It's not completely the tea and video games and this it was such a meme.
How crazy is it that it's almost been 3 years?
But think about this. It was a meme. Every week there'd be a new article talking about how something else is causing the heart attacks except for the vaccine. It was everything else other than the vaccine causing this huge uptick in heart attacks. And now here we are. They're like, okay, it might be the vaccine a little bit, just a little bit. Just
it's mostly the potato chips, though. Believe us.
It's mostly everything other than the vaccine, but the vaccine may play a small, insignificant role. So, yeah. So it's called POTS, which stands for, let me look it up, it's in the thing, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So it's like SADS, where they can't call it heart attack or blood clots, so they're calling it postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. They give it like a scientific sounding name so that you don't connect the dots. So it's fine. Look,
I mean, it sounds a little better than just saying
they also say at the end of the they also say at the end of the article, right? The vaccines continue to be an important strategy to fight against COVID and its effects. The risk of this happening is much greater with COVID than it is with the vaccine. So please do get vaccinated.
Absolutely.
Yes,
listen,
yeah,
everyone out there, everyone out there who doesn't agree with me on everything should definitely get vaccinated.
Yeah, get all the boosters.
Don't just stop with Pfizer. You want to get Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca. Go to other countries, get their boosters.
Yeah, and if you feel like a tightness in the chest, that means like the Omicron is like overpowering your vaccines, and you need to like reinforce your system by getting more.
So I thought of something. There is because I was talking about Call of Cthulhu earlier. There's a monster from Call of Cthulhu. It's from a short story called The Festival, but they turned it into a D&D monster called The Worm That Walks. And it's basically a bunch of worms that like form the rough body of a human, and they usually wear like a wax mask, and they wear like loose-fitting clothing. But they're literally just it's like the Boogeyman from Nightmare Before Christmas, where he's a bunch of bugs in a burlap sack, and that's his body. So you could be like a vermin lord. You could have all these gummy worms in your body. Maybe you could like learn to control them.
A vermin lord.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've been thinking like if all the normies like die from this vaccine bullshit, wouldn't that solve a whole bunch of problems? Wouldn't we like avoid the
No,
it
won't.
No, because the government will use the crisis, and it would be a crisis, to seize total power.
With what army?
Well,
5 billion people. Poof.
Well, look, I'm not. It's gonna look. I don't think they thought that far ahead. I just think they need a crisis to take total power, and they'll solve for X later. We'll see how that goes.
Nancy Pelosi shows up on the battlefield. It's like, I am here to enslave you.
Right. Well, that's when
Wait, what are we talking about now?
Nancy Pelosi
just gets shit kicked.
That's wants to get like gay hammer fights on Nancy Pelosi's house.
Yeah.
We show up with Hammer Brothers cosplay and Mario costumes. We make Paul Pelosi wear a Mario costume, and we put on little turtle shells and we throw hammers at him.
He was at some live event like 3 days after he supposedly got out of the hospital, and he looked just fine.
Yeah, they were just having gay sex.
Yeah.
There was no Hammer Brothers bullshit. Anyway, so here's the thing. I'm going to come out. This is kind of a hot take. It might be a little controversial. But I think eugenics is wrong. I don't think you should sterilize and kill millions of people. I don't think the government should be in some kind of a depopulation kind of campaign. I think that's wrong. In the past, they've done eugenics based on race, based on IQ. Like they do it to this day with Down syndrome. Like if you get the gene, if a baby is tested and has the gene which causes Down syndrome, the state will actively encourage to abort because they don't want a Downy baby that they're just going to sit on welfare and disability. So I don't
remember which country it was. It was either Iceland or Finland. I don't remember which one, but they were bragging about how they don't have Down syndrome anymore because they've aborted it away.
There you go.
Isn't that a good thing, though?
No.
Well,
Down syndrome people aren't they're not retarded. They're just they look funny.
They have goblin face. They look like fucking Sam Bankman-Fried's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Anyway, so here's my point: is we have eugenics. We have in Canada they just started this huge euthanasia push. My point is if we're going to
already have eugenics though?
Sure. My point is, if we're going to have eugenics, which I disagree with morally, but if we're going to have eugenics, I much prefer a voluntary eugenics of the stupid than some type of doing it based on race or religion or something like that. Because, you're let's say you want to target black people. Well, sure, you're going to get rid of the Dindus and dipshits, but you're also going to get rid of Thomas Sowell and Morgan Freeman and Shogun, the good black people that we love and we don't want to go away. And so, but this COVID shit, this is only affecting the dumbasses because all the information is right there. It's all there. Like if you are getting boosted, you deserve to die because you're stupid. So it's like, okay, I can't. If you're going to have eugenics, I guess this is the least shitty form of eugenics you could have. We are just killing off dumbasses who don't know how to like think for themselves. I guess that's
the ones that are gonna like enslave you.
Well, they're not going to enslave us. There's not. Look, I know there's a saying, the only thing for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. The problem is, in a democracy, the good men can't do anything because the majority of people are fucking stupid sheep. So the good men want to do something, and the sheep are like, no, don't do anything. I don't want anything to happen. I just want to grill. So it's those people.
The sheep are gonna die.
So so let me expand on that quote. What is necessary for evil to triumph is for the sheep in the middle to scream down the good men and prevent them from standing up to the evil. Because the people in the middle just want to grill. They don't want to they don't want any trouble. They just want things to go back to normal, and they basically actively stop the good men from standing up to evil. So they can't, because the good men, they want to fight the evil, which is already going to be a tough battle, but they got the evil in front of them, and they got the normies behind them stabbing them in the back, who are tripping over themselves to sell them out. And you can't fight evil with normies at your back trying to sell you out and stab you. Like that's
also, at what point do you realize that what you're looking at is evil?
Well, that's my point. I'm not. I know I'm kind of being a hypocrite because I talk about how good and evil are subjective. I'm expanding on that quote about how all is necessary for evil to triumph is for good to do nothing. Because it's not just good versus evil, because there's no neutral third party. There's these normies who will actively enable evil and prevent good from standing up to it because they want things to stay the same. They fear change more than they fear, And so anyway, my point is that this euthanasia and this eugenics push is affecting those people. The people who just do what they're told and don't question it because they want things to go back to normal. And as tragic as that is on a human level, it's probably the least shitty form of eugenics I can think of. Because in a very weird way, they're actually sparing the good men who want to. Like, the good men aren't the ones dying. It's the normie dipshits who are dying. Which is like kind of a good thing. It might actually work out to our benefit in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, an argument could have been made that they were going to die anyways when everything collapsed financially anyways.
Well, we're all going to die. Like, none of us are getting out of here. We're all going to die of something.
There's a reason they say death and taxes. I mean,
yeah, we're all going to die of something. I just want to die surrounded by the corpses of my enemies. That's all.
But just to expand a minute on what you're saying, the whole like good people doing nothing meme is really like a retrospect thing. A lot of times you don't know that what's going on around you is like evil enough to stop it. Like right now, you could argue that what they're doing with the tranny thing, with the money thing, with all that's evil. But you're doing it based on the idea of what you think is going to happen. If it turns out in 5 years, like, I don't know, maybe fusion gets invented or quantum computing, and all of a sudden there's an economic boom and none of the shit that you thought was going to happen happened. But if it doesn't and people start starving and everything, and then they go, oh, it's because the good people did nothing. No, it was the good people didn't realize what they were looking at was evil at the time. It wasn't until things were bad enough and they couldn't do anything.
Well, there's an argument that could be made that, like, well, for example, I'll use an example from history. The U.S. Civil War, which was fought to free the slaves. Now, slavery is another hot take. Slavery is bad.
It is.
It's a bad thing. We should not have done that. We should have picked our own cotton.
Yes, we should have.
So here's the thing. Now, forgive me that hot take. Now, in hindsight, the Civil War was very wasteful. Like, the Industrial Revolution was only a few decades away. We had slavery for like 100+ years. We could have waited a couple decades for the Industrial Revolution to make slavery redundant and then just let slavery quietly go away. But instead we fought this horrible bloody war and destroyed the Constitution to fight an institution that was already on its way out. Now, we didn't know it at the time because the Industrial Revolution hadn't happened yet. So it's one of those things where you might pull the trigger on your master plan to make the world a better place, and then something might happen a few years later which would have solved the problem on its own, and you just fought this horrible bloody war and accomplished a lot of bad things, and then it was all unnecessary. That is a risk.
and yet the original, no, not the original, but the revised 13th Amendment essentially left a loophole for vagrancy laws to be abused as slavery, in a sense.
There's
Or do you agree with that?
there's a lot of the all the amendments that were passed after the Civil War are bullshit because basically the Republicans refused to seat. So they said you can't leave our country, you're still part of our country. But then when they lost the Civil War, they said, okay, we're not going to let you vote on this. So we're going to pass a whole bunch of constitutional amendments and force them down your throat because we won. That isn't how the Constitution works. So basically they were actively rewriting the Constitution in violation of the Constitution. So all those all those amendments that were passed after the Civil War were all bullshit. Because you can't.
Yeah, it was so bad they wanted to like kick out the acting president. What was his name? Andrew Johnson, or
Well, yeah. Imagine if the Republicans. I'll switch the parties just to like. Actually, it's ironically not switching the parties. Imagine if the Republicans in the current year basically just told the Democrats, "We're not going to let you take a seat. We're going to vote on all these laws without you." And we're going to pass everything. We're going to pass our whole agenda, and you can't vote against it because we're not going to let you take a seat and vote. But
even if they did let them vote, they said, "Oh, and by the way, we're going to let all the slaves vote tomorrow too, and we're telling them who to vote for."
Well, they were getting shut down. Like Andrew Johnson kept vetoing all their shit, and the Republicans wanted to like fucking impeach him out of office.
They did
and
impeach
only
him.
lost.
The Senate just didn't throw him out of office, and he
I thought he
got
lost
out
by
of
one
it by
vote.
one vote.
So that's my point. It's like when you're passing constitutional amendments via that, those amendments should have been thrown out. But of course, it's one of those. It's just like it's not even worth getting into. America's dead. I've already made peace with it. I suggest you do too. Take whatever time you need. Hold your dick out as long as it takes. But anyway, okay. Okay, let's do one super chat and then we got to move on.
Weeaboo Trucker 69 donated $10. Jesus Christ. Haven't had a load to California in a while and it's crazy. Was in Amarillo, Texas the other day and gas was $2.40 a gallon. Was in Bakersfield, California a few hours ago and gas is $7 a gallon.
Yeah. So I drive a very small, like subcompact, and I work from home, so I don't even fill up my car that much, and I still feel it. So, yeah, it sucks. It's all taxes, by the way.
Yeah, I was reading a whole analysis on that the other day.
It's not greedy oil companies. It's literally the government of California. Like, now here's what's dumb. Instead of nickel and diming you and taxing you every which way, they should just have one tax that you pay. You pay your tax. You have your one tax. The problem is, if you actually knew all the taxes you were paying, it would really piss you off.
Well, dude, think about this. I was just thinking about this the other day, right? The Democrats it's their favorite thing to do to say that Republicans are going to cut Social Security. Right? That they're going to lower benefits. They're going to increase the retirement age. They're going to fuck you over on Social Security. But it was the Democrats who passed the bill in the 90s to tax Social Security benefits. And Joe Biden was the deciding vote. They were actually an even vote, and Joe Biden was the one who did it. That this is how they do. Like, that's a tax. Of course it is. But they did it in a way that nobody would be able to really complain, or the amount of people that could complain was small enough that it didn't matter.
Well, they tax you as much as you will tolerate, and then they find more creative ways to continue to tax you in ways you don't see, so they can keep taxing you without you realizing it so you don't get angry. Or what they do is they tax the corporations. When you tax a corporation, they just raise their prices. So they're not paying the tax, they're collecting the tax from you. So corporate taxes are paid by the consumer. So this is another tax you're paying. But because you're not paying it directly, you don't blame the government, you blame the corporation for raising their prices. So it's just it's a dishonest way, but I get why they do it, because people are stupid and they fall for it.
Modern monetary theory exists. The modern monetary theory exists to basically make inflation the way they can make you pay for everything, because it's unfortunately they spend so much money that inflation won't cover it. But that's why they do it.
Well, I have another hot take.
Go for it.
I'm okay with using inflation to basically pay for government, because unlike the progressive income tax,
it's evenly spread.
Yes, basically you've heard of the flat tax or the fair tax. Yep. So an inflation tax is actually like a flat tax. It's the only way we'll ever actually have a flat tax, because everyone pays the inflation tax. Rich, poor, on welfare, drug addicted, homeless person, everyone pays the inflation tax. So it's.
I mean, one would argue that the poor pay it more because the percentage of their income that they have to spend as opposed to save is higher. But I don't have a problem with that. I don't care.
Oh, yeah,
I'm just saying.
I hate poor people, so fuck them. Also, with here's the other irony: inflation exacerbates income inequality, because rich people tend to own assets which appreciate with inflation, and poor people tend to not. So
They also make their money from capital gains, which is taxed at a lower rate.
Well, yes and no. The thing about capital gains is it's basically it's taxes on money you've already paid taxes on. So you basically risk the money, and then you only pay taxes on the profits. So it's money you've already paid taxes on. Like people like to bring up the fact that, oh, rich people only pay capital gain taxes, not income. Yeah, income is guaranteed. If I hire you to do a job, and then I say, oh, hey, times are tough, the business is losing money, I can't pay you, you're going to sue me, and you're going to win, because we have a contract. So guaranteed income is different than capital gains, because capital gains requires risk. I may lose money. I may not make shit. I may be working for free for a year and living off of savings. That's the risk with capital gains. And if you tax it like income, also we have global competition. If you start, and they want, this is why Biden is pushing a global minimum tax, because there are countries which attract investors by having lower tax rates than Western countries, and they want to do away with that, where like rich people can't take their money and leave. But that's not going to work.
Like, because there'll always be countries that don't give a fuck and don't go along with the
100%, because you're right. Because like, if you're a small island nation like the Bahamas or the Cayman Islands or something, what incentive do you have to go along with the global minimum tax? None. That's the kiss of death to your fucking nation's economy, for no benefit. What, to benefit America and Europe so they can tax their rich people? Fuck them. So they can threaten you with the military. They can be like, you better go with our global minimum tax or we're going to sanction you. Well, the thing is, what they did to Russia, ironically, the Russian sanctions and the splitting of the world has now made the threat of American sanctions kind of stupid. Because now you're like, oh no, you're going to sanction me. I guess I'll just do business with the other half of the world.
The ones who actually pay their bills.
The ones who don't give a shit, like, about your fucking
the ones
sanctions.
that actually produce it.
This is why Iran. So Iran was actually, like, the sanctions against Iran for the last several years have really been hurting their economy. And they've been struggling because, China and Russia haven't really, there's been like a black market, but Iran's been having to rely on the black market. But now that Russia's been sanctioned and China doesn't give a fuck, now Iran's like, hey, who wants to buy my oil like we do? No one gives a fuck about U.S. sanctions anymore. Nope. So now, without U.S. sanctions, the only thing the government can do is invade countries with the military. So imagine being in the military and invading a country like the Cayman Islands and shooting their people and, arresting their government for the crime of not having high enough taxes. So that, because rich people are leaving your country and going there. And so you have to go in and shoot and kill people because you need to tax them yourself to pay for your free shit. Like, at that point, you are just a stormtrooper. You're not a hero. No one should thank you for no one should thank you for your service. They should spit on you. Like, what's ironic is we used to call soldiers baby killers in the 70s, but now we celebrate abortion. So what do we call them now? Like, baby killer isn't even like a slur anymore. Now you're stunning and brave if you kill babies. Anyway, just one to, I don't know. I honestly don't know. That was like a rhetorical question. I don't know what to do. Anyway, next article. Okay, actually, this is funny. So I'm glad you're back. Because, this is about Kanye. And so you have the whole anti-Semitic trope is the Jews control the banks, they control the media. And then Kanye, he rattled the Jews' feathers and they took away his shoe deal and he got debanked and he lost his media empire. And people are like, okay, well, it's not like the Jews control the government, though. It's not like the Jews are like marshaling the entire power of the U.S. government because of Kanye. And then we have our next article from Bloomberg. Biden forms group to coordinate response to rising anti-Semitism.
Yeah, right. But you know what's funny is that he changed it because he didn't want to criticize certain progressives. So he changed it to the response to anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, transphobia, and other bigotries is what he's calling it now.
All right. Well, it was Well, this is from, well, how long ago was this? The
It was
12th,
this week.
2 days ago. So this is from 2 days.
Yeah.
So as of 2 days ago, it was simply a response to rising anti-Semitism. And it talks about, like recent events, which is like, what recent events? Like Kanye. You could say Kanye. That's the only
it's
recent
okay.
event.
Say his name.
Say. Don't. I'm not gonna call him Ye. That's stupid. I call him Yee. Yee sounds cooler than Ye.
Say my name.
I'm just picturing Kanye with his fucking ski mask and his like ski jacket with his little net and his bottle of Yahoo or Yoo-hoo, and look at the fucking take away his shoes, take away his media empire, bust him down from a billionaire to just a multimillionaire. And that wasn't enough. Now, like, quick, we have to marshal the entire government. It's like, look, you're not helping the case. If the argument is the Jews totally don't control the media and the banks and the government, but then because of one black... Is he even a rapper anymore? Has he even made an album in the last 20 years?
He's a musician.
He's a musician. He makes clothing and shoes. And so here he is running around in looking like a G.I. Joe character with his jacket and ski mask. And now the entire government is being marshaled to stop Kanye West from noticing.
Right.
It's like, that is really stupid. Like, remember in X-Files, you had the smoking man? And you had the government conspiracy talking about we're going to kill Mulder because he's getting too close. And the smoking man's like, if you kill Mulder, you'll make him a martyr. And then everyone will believe everything he's saying. And then it's like, this right here is why anti-Semitism is going to rise. Because here's like the noticing, there's like a small ember. People just noticing Jews controlling everything, all the Steins and Bergs and whatever, and now you just took a big you put napalm on that fire, and everyone's like, because when in recent history have you seen the entire government, this was an interagency task force to go after any other form of hate crime? I can think of one. This was after 9/11, where the government sprang into action to stop any potential retribution against the Muslim community. They were so terrified that Americans might take out 9/11 on Muslims. So they did this whole big push to not blame Muslims. Well, I'm talking in my lifetime. I remember after 9/11, there was a big push to not blame Muslims for what happened on 9/11. And so they did this whole like big push, like, hey, don't blame the Muslims. It was these guys. It's not Muslims in general. That's the only time I can remember this happening. So basically, Kanye West is as dangerous as fucking 9/11 was to Muslims. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Exposing the
cathedral
here's
for
what it is.
But the cathedral...
He's showing you the Hydra.
But he's not, though. That's the point. So the cathedral is using anti-Semitism the same way they use racism, sexism, environmentalism. They're pushing communism, and they're criticizing you. If you criticize them, if it's a woman communist, you're a sexist. If it's a black communist, you're a racist. If it's an environmentalist communist, you hate the planet. And if it's a Jewish communist, you're an anti-Semite. That's their tactic. They use anti-Semitism, racism, sexism, environmentalism to attack anyone attacking their agenda. But it's not Jews. Like, Halsey's not part of some vast conspiracy. All the like Hasidic Jews with their little curly Q sideburns, they don't have shit to do with this. And so blaming Jews and going on and about Jews is actually very counterproductive. In the same way, blaming black people or women is counterproductive. It's not women. It's this left-wing clique of feminism, and it's cultural Marxism. That's what it is. It's the hydra of cultural Marxism, which is, it's black shit, gay shit, women, environmentalism, Jew shit. It's all, but attacking one head, acting like it's all Jews, and ignoring feminism and environmentalism and blacks and gays. That's retarded. Now, there's intermingling. There's gay feminists and Jews and blacks. They're all, it's all a hydra. But the hydra is it's a disguise, because in the end of the day, it's all just communism. The Frankfurt School created cultural Marxism to make it appear that Western culture is being attacked from different angles when it was all just communism. And you see this with intersectionality, where everything ultimately comes back to capitalism. So you have people criticizing patriarchy and whiteness and Christianity. And at the end of the day, it's all just capitalism. They're just using these different angles to attack capitalism. That was the purpose of cultural Marxism. So it's the thing that what Kanye's doing is he's not playing into their hands per se, because there are a lot of Jews in the cathedral. There are a lot of Jews in the communist tent, but it's not Jews as such. It's communism. And there's black Jews, white Jews, or I'm sorry, there's black communists, white communists, Jewish communists. That's the problem. And making it about Jews, and I use the analogy, I use this analogy for pedophilia, but the analogy fits either way. Imagine if vampires were real, and they were biting people and turning them into vampires, and there was this wave of vampirism. So humans decided to get together, and they were going to, kill the vampires and save the world from all these blood-sucking vampires. So we get Belmont and, Van Helsing. We're staking vampires and cutting their heads off and holding up crosses and holy water and shit. And we're killing all these vampires. But we decide we're only going to kill male vampires, because Vlad the Impaler was a man, and we think female vampires are hot.
Aren't as aggressive.
Yeah, the females are sexy. They wear sexy low-cut gowns, and they look cute. So we're gonna let the female vampires go, but we're only gonna kill the male vampires. So we're focusing exclusively on the male vampires, and then the females are creating more vampires behind the scenes. So we'll never actually win the war against the vampires, because we're only focusing on one group of that thing. So making it about men is dumb. It's about the vampires. Like, yes, a lot of the vampires are men, but it's not the fact that they're men that makes them bloodsuckers. It's the fact that they're vampires that makes them bloodsuckers. And to exclude the women, that just means you're never gonna win the war. So you have people who want to make it about Jews, but they want to ignore all the white communists. They want to ignore the feminism. They'll talk about how the gays need to go and minorities and Jews, but then they basically excuse their own women. Like, oh yeah, but white women, they're our queens, and we have to eat their pussies and tell them how good it tastes.
No one escapes judgment.
But that's the analogy, is making it all about race. What it does is it means you're basically taking your eye off the actual cause, and you're focusing on one group. I'm not saying, I will admit Jews are disproportionately represented in the cathedral and in communism. But I actually have a reason for that. It's because when you're a minority and you feel like you're an oppressed minority. Well, they didn't have
a culture. They country.
They had a culture. They didn't. Yeah, they were always a minority. And when you're always a minority in other people's countries, you develop a heavy left-wing bias towards equality, because basically right versus left is basically strong versus weak. If you're in the dominant position, you're going to value stability. If you're in the minority position, if you're in the whatever the opposite of dominant is, submissive, I guess. If you have to submit to the dominant position, you're going to value equality. So because Jews were always a minority in other people's countries, they developed a very hard leftist streak, which made them predisposed to communism. Now, with the creation of Israel, now that they have a country, notice how Israel, they have right-wing values. They believe in closed borders. They believe in protecting their culture and their traditions. You wouldn't even guess that this was a Jewish country based on the actions of Jews in Western countries, but that's because they have a nation now. So it's just, it's fine. I'm not saying don't impale the communist Jews. I'm just saying don't stop at the communist Jews. And don't, the poor Hasidic Jews that are just living their life and eating pizza, they have shit to do with this. It's not about race. And you can't, look, feminism and environmentalists and gay shit and all that shit, it's all the same shit. But what binds it all together isn't Jews. Now, this is going back to the article. This is clearly the cathedral running defense because this is damaging to them, because they use anti-Semitism to shut it down. Just like feminism uses misogyny to shut it down. Just like black communists use racism to shut it down. That's where
they want to be able to accuse you of being a bigot every single way possible.
Right. Yes. So exactly. This is just one. I call them meat shields. Communists use all these groups as a meat shield, so that if you criticize them, then they hold up the meat shield. Like, why do you hate women? Why do you hate black people? Why do you hate Jews? Why do you hate the planet? Why do you hate gay people? And they're all just meat shields. They don't give a fuck about these groups. So that's always been my stand. I'm not but what Kanye's doing, yes, it is increasing the noticing, but it's actually almost derailing what they should be noticing. The problem isn't the Jews. The problem is the communists. Not like, because I don't know.
Well, I mean, the problem is the political system that you guys have, or that the West has right now, is a bastardization of perfectly good systems that were implemented hundreds of years ago.
You're talking about the two-party system?
No, I'm talking about the ruling class and having that sort of.
Okay, I hate to be that guy.
The flowing ruling class is
we don't. You always have a ruling class, and there's actually a really good book that Curtis Yarvin, aka Mencius Molbug, recommends called "The Machiavellians, Defenders of Freedom," and it goes into this. I highly recommend that book. Curtis Yarvin's a Jew, by the way. And he's hard. Yes, he's Jewish. So is Michael Malice. So Michael Malice is
that either.
Yeah. So there's a thing. Michael Malice is a great libertarian thinker. Curtis Yarvin's a great dissident right thinker, and they're Jews. So this idea that it's Jews, they're all tainted. The whole lot of them have to go. You're stupid. So it's all about values. The communist Jews have to go, just like the communist whites, the communist blacks, the communist gays. They all have to go. Impale them all.
Agreed.
Anyway, shit. Oh, so in the Machiavellian Defenders of Freedom book, it talks about how there's an aristocratic tendency in the ruling class. Even if you start with the perfect system that has a flowing, open ruling class, it's human nature to want to hook up your family.
Yeah.
You're not going to...
So you need to create a religion around the values that you want to foster in your civilization.
And we already established that religions are just people. And look at Christianity, how cucked it's become. Now they're like the Mormons. The Mormons used to be so fucking racist, they wouldn't let black people get the priesthood. And then now they're cucking to gay people. That's how far it's come. And they're not even that old. They were created in the 1800s. They're not thousands of years old. Look how quickly they cuck. Anyway, the point is nothing will actually protect your society from only people. Only power checks power. A piece of paper won't protect you. An institution will protect you, because institutions have to be enforced by people. If you're going to run a church, you have to excommunicate people who step out of line. You have to tell them to go eat shit and go to hell, literally. If you can't do that, and if the government says, we're going to take your nonprofit status away, say, do it. Take my nonprofit status. I don't give a fuck. Go fuck yourself. You can go to hell too. You're all excommunicated. Fucking, if you want to ask what would Jesus do, Jesus would fashion a fucking whip and start whipping motherfuckers. That's what he would do. So anyway, that's the problem. Is power checks power, and there's an aristocratic tendency. There's no way to ensure a long-term, open ruling class, because the people in the ruling class will always try to fix the system, in air quotes, so that their families can stay in power, even if they don't deserve to. And they also want to keep out rivals. Because think about it, you have your kids, and they're not that bright. The apple fell pretty far from the tree, and you got this other family that their kids are smarter than your kids. Now, if you do nothing, your family will be kicked out of their position, and that family will take your place, because their kids are smarter than your kids. But you have the power to prevent that family from rising up and becoming your rival. You can basically cap them at the knees and sabotage them and keep them low so that your family stays on top. Who wouldn't do that? Almost nobody. It would take somebody
People who have good morals.
Yes, it would.
And want the betterment of society as a whole.
Yeah, you would have to be Plato's philosopher king to not do that. Now, once in a very long while, you will get a Marcus Aurelius. But that is very, very, very rare. It's basically shiny Pokemon rare when it comes to like rulers to actually have someone with that level of wisdom and integrity. And they come around like once in 1,000 years. And as Commodus proves, even if you are born
Perfect.
to and if you're born to and raised by these philosopher kings, it does nothing. There's no like, okay, so your father was
Virtue
Marcus
is not
Aurelius.
genetic.
Yeah, your father was Marcus Aurelius. You were born and raised to the greatest Roman emperor of all time. You had every opportunity to follow in his footsteps and become just as good of an emperor, and you failed in every way possible. So
You gotta play Gladiator and bankrupt your empire.
yeah, you want to be a pathetic LARPer. So the point is, like, that's just how, like, unfortunately, human lifespans are only so long. And every way we've come up with to try to select good leaders, and it always becomes corrupt over time because it's just human nature. That's just a way of human nature. Like, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I mean, even HOAs become corrupt. Mm-hmm. Even like there's a meme of these unpaid mods in social media, like Reddit mods, how they're corrupt. Fucking Reddit mods who don't even have any real power, and yet they're corrupt. Like, that's just part of human nature.
Dude, Twitter employees were charging people like $15,000 to get a blue check mark.
Yeah.
What?
So, yeah, it's retarded. Everything's fake and gay. Anyway, all right.
So, do we want to move on to the other articles? Just get
Or do the commercial break.
We're at 2.5 hours. Let's take a quick commercial break. So our sponsors are the Dollhouse, purveyor of fun waifu and waifu accessories, the Way of Monkey book available on Amazon, Hardly Heroes by Shadowmere Comics, fantasy, adventure, Dungeons and Dragons, good shit. Check them out. And then the menu by Aaron Clay. Oh, I skipped the menu earlier. We got so sidetracked. I'm sorry, Aaron. If you're out there, I apologize. The Menu by Aaron Clary is his latest book, and it talks about things to live for when, the traditional marriage and family just isn't in the cards for you. And let's be honest here, it's not in the cards for most of us. Not due to any fault of our own. It's not that we're like fat and disabled and retarded or socially awkward. It's just the system is so goddamn broken that, like, the dream of the wife and the kids and the picket fence and the working at the factory and coming home to a hot meal, that is not going to fucking happen. That Leave It to Beaver shit is dead as fuck. So now what do you do? What are you going to do with your life? What are you going to live for? Have you even thought about it? Well, if you haven't thought about it, that's what the menu is. It's just things to think about, things to consider, things to live for beyond just the Leave It to Beaver promise that was broken. All right, so we'll be back in a few minutes. Stay tuned. Oh, hold on. Now I got to find the... Shit. Where's the thing? There we go.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
So I wrote a book called The Menu, Life Without the Opposite Sex. And the reason I wrote it was so people wouldn't kill themselves. And that's it. That's basically it. Because whether you realize it or not, the West... faces a huge existential crisis where feminism largely has convinced the entire sex to abandon the other sex. And I don't know if you paid attention to history, but that's largely why humans were here. And so every person, male and female, now faces this existential crisis. What do I live for? And that's the biggest challenge facing people today right now. Like, what do I live for in the West anyway? And so what I did is I came up with a list, a menu of everything life offers outside of the opposite sex. So one, you don't kill yourself, and two, you actually make your life on this planet count. So take a look at it. The Menu, Life Without the Opposite Sex, paperback, Kindle, audio, and hardcover.
War. War never changes. In the current year, women have declared war on men. Men are not only guilty until proven innocent, but they are not even allowed to prove their innocence. In response to this warfare waged by women, known as feminism, men have sought refuge with waifus, artificial women able to satisfy a man's need for love and sex. Retailers like the Dollhouse began to spread, bringing waifus to men everywhere, freeing them from the enslavement of feminism. Get your waifu today from thedollhouse.com or dc.dollhouse.com if you're in the United States, before they're banned by feminism so they can control men once more. Go to thedollhouse.com and dcdollhouse.com to find your waifu today, before it's too late.
Join our four main characters, Harbeck, Shump, Theron, and Salazar. This isn't your grandfather's adventuring party. Follow along as they encounter awesome enemies and questionable moral situations in the fantasy story of Hardly Heroes. We hope you'll fall in love with our plucky cast of characters as much as we did role-playing as them. And maybe they'll remind you of your favorite group of murder hobos. Maybe they'll be your favorite. They aren't the heroes this world deserves, but they are the heroes this world needs. They are Hardly Heroes.
So when you say next
We're
year,
back.
you mean like 2023? Oh.
Yeah, we're back. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry, we're talking about investing stuff. Apparently natural gas is low. Let me pull it up. Let me see what it's at, because I might buy more. Does the FOMC come out? Do we know if we got the 50 basis point hike, or if we're still waiting on that? Because that's what I'm waiting for.
I don't know.
All right, so natural gas is... So my target price is 625. So it's at 643. Now it should be over 7, but they're bid. Now my hypothesis was they're bidding it down because of the FOMC meeting, because they don't want to like start the rally too early. Because look, the Fed are people. They're not just like an economic indicator. They're living, breathing people who vote on what the interest rate should be. So if you pop a rally too early, it might affect their vote. Now, this may also be, there's these stupid computer models where the natural gas industry thinks that December is going to be mild, even though there's like cold fronts happening right now and there's like snow falling. They still think December is going to be mild, so they're like bidding down the price of natural gas. I have no idea. There's an energy crisis. I don't know. And the Freeport export facility is going to be reopening in a matter of weeks. So I don't know where they're getting, but you know what? I bought around this price about a couple weeks ago, and
So did I.
it recovered to $7 the other day, and I made 8% on one position, and I made over 20% on another position. So you know what? If this goes down to 625 or lower, I'm gonna start buying more. I got 20% of my portfolio
I
in
haven't
cash.
cashed out yet.
Oh well, you missed the boat then, because now it's low again. Yeah,
That's
natural
okay.
gas has been a roller
I'll get it
coaster.
next time.
It'll come back. Like these people who are like, yeah, we're not going to need natural gas in the winter during an energy crisis. Like I think we will. I think we will.
I was sort of waiting for it to break like 720, 730.
Yeah, well, let me see what
didn't end up
European
being that high.
natural gas is doing. Where's the European natural gas? Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm getting all distracted. I just want to check something real quick.
UK natural gas is currently sitting at $326.
Well, on the futures market, it's at 42.27, so it's down 2%. So here's what you got to understand: European natural gas is $42. American gas is $6. The reason why those numbers aren't closer together, the reason why those numbers aren't closer together is because the U.S. can only export so much. And there's an export facility reopening in a matter of weeks, and you're going to see those numbers equalize as the U.S. exports more natural gas. So I don't know, like, if they'll meet in the middle. I think that's the long-term goal. Like, we're building a lot of export facilities, and Europe is building a lot of LNG import facilities, so that eventually, in the next couple of years, these numbers will converge. So somewhere between $6 and $42, these two markets will converge somewhere in the middle. But I don't have to tell you what's going to happen to the price of U.S. natural gas when that happens. It's not going to stay $6, I'll tell you that. But you know what? It's fine. I'm not worried at all. It's going to be a good year. But normies are stupid. What can I say? All right, back to our regularly scheduled shenanigans. Okay, actually, let's do one super chat. Or actually, wait, we got two super chats that are linked, and then we will move forward with our next article.
Atlas Joe donated $5. China won't buy Western jabs for same reason we don't buy theirs. Sputnik came out, and everyone wonder why not buy it, but biosecurity and West's profit was reason to not buy it whilst locked down. Also, Sputnik jab is the same as AstraZeneca, both DNA changing. Russians definitely don't want to kill their own people. So I don't think it's a global mass killing attempt. Part 2. Atlas Joe donated $5. Also, Bureau of Statistics for Oz doesn't have data for birth rate yet for 2022. So I looked at fourth jab Israel for evidence. You guys said that Australia is infertile. Israel has only a 1.79% reduction in birth rate. So getting the jab won't make an entire country infertile.
Well, I didn't say it would make you infertile. I said it would. You see the crash in the birth rates. Now, so this is the thing, I get into arguments about this. People are like, not everybody's dying so first of all, people told me I was completely insane, and that the jab is perfectly safe, and I'm a fucking retard who's a conspiracy theorist. Then people started dying of heart attacks, and then people started getting gummy worms in their blood, and people started getting all kinds of shit, and now people are falling back on, well, it's only like 2%. It's only like 5%. It's fine. It's like, it's not fine. Like, you're seeing... Like, what was it? The excess death? I'm off the top of my head. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think of, like, the excess death was, like, 17%. So 70%... Like,
the excess death for Australia, there was an extra 9,000 deaths in the country the year before. And, like, comparatively to the other years, they're just unexplained. Which is, like, 10-15% of the average... deaths increase.
Right, so it's basically somewhere between 15 and 20%. Like, people are dying at a rate 15 to 20% that science can't explain. Like, it's not COVID.
And it's not just...
it's potato chips.
Right. Here's the thing. It's not just that they're dying. We're not having kids.
Well, but here's the thing. That's 15 to 20% on top. Like, so you can kind of not necessarily lie with statistics, but you can make things sound shocking. So people die all the time. So there's a certain percentage of the population that's going to die on any given year. And that number has grown 15 to 20%. Now, that doesn't mean like half the population doesn't die every year. So we're talking about a 15 to 20% growth on top of an already relatively small statistic. So people die normally, and now that amount of people who are dying has shot up 15 to 20%. But altogether, if you look at the general population, saying it's about 2%, 3%, that sounds about right. And then people are like, see, there's nothing to worry about. Only 3% of people are dying. Like, that, it is something to worry about. And also, like, it's going to take years for this to really ramp up, because it is affecting your DNA. It is replicating itself. It is causing problems months or years later. Like, there are people who, they only got their 2 shots like a year ago. They haven't gotten any boosters, and they're fucking dying with gummy worms in their blood. So it's not like if you avoid the boosters, you're fine. It depends. Like, you might have gotten to dud, or we don't even know. The thing is, we don't even know, because people can't look at it because of the politics. So we really don't know what's causing this. because no one wants to look into it because of what it could do to their career. Everybody's afraid of.
I linked the study that I'm citing for the Australian birth statistics. If you wanted to pull it up,
right. My point is, this actually happened. Like whenever you debate some type of issue, people will point out like, well, that's only 1% of the population. Only one, like, you're so worried about being falsely accused of rape. Well, only 1% of people will ever be falsely accused of rape, so it's not a big issue. Well, only like what 2% of people are Jews and 5% of people are gay. Like, it doesn't sound like a lot, does it? But there's a lot of gay people, there's a lot of Jews, a lot of people who will be falsely accused of rape. It's a big problem. Like, if you wait until something affects 51% of the population before you decide it's a problem, that's basically society-destroying catastrophe. Like, look what's happening in Ukraine with the amount of men that are dying. Now, if you look at it as, like, because they're losing thousands of people. Now, if you look at the grand scheme of things, if you look at the total population of Ukraine, the amount of men who are dying they're like single digits. They're only losing about, single digits percentage of their population. They'll be fine. But no, this is like the end of Ukraine. You're literally murdering their entire fighting age men. There aren't going to be any fucking Ukrainian men
working
left.
Age,
those are your workers, your farmers, your everything. Like, you're not going to be able to keep your country together with a bunch of geriatric old men and babies.
I mean, this is one of the things that kind of fucked Great Britain. Like, after World War I, after they lost like millions of their like fighting age men, like it made it really hard for them to like maintain their empire after that.
Right, but my point is you could look at the total population, and then you could be like, well, it's not that many people. It's only like 10%. That's nothing. And it depends. Everything's relevant. Everything's contextual. So anyway, there we go. We did it. We got through those super chats. Okay, next article. This is a study from Nature magazine that just released, and it actually like goes right to the heart of the obsession with CO2 when it comes to climate change, because one of the big arguments for CO2 was, oh my gosh, this CO2 buildup is going to affect clouds. It's going to create the greenhouse effect, and it's going to trap heat in the earth, and it's going to make the earth heat up, and that's going to be it. Like, GG, the polar ice caps melt, we all drown, and that's the end of the earth. So we have to cut down on greenhouse gases and CO2 because it's going to end life as we know it. Well, this study is showing actually the CO2 actually like repels heat. The earth is cooling because of CO2.
I mean, does that surprise you?
No, but it like, and this is in Nature magazine. This is like this is the most prestigious scientific journal there is. So yeah, like now before this even happened, CO2 is not a pollutant. It's literally what plants breathe. Like humans, plants and animals form a very harmonious ecosystem where the plants produce sugar for the animals to eat, and they get the radiation from the sun. The animals eat the plants and produce fertilizer that the plants need to eat. So, and then the plants basically, for lack of a better term, plants breathe in CO2 and they exhale oxygen, and the animals breathe in oxygen and exhale CO2. So plants and animals combined form this harmonious ecosystem. So the problem, if we have too much CO2, is because we don't have enough plants. It's like we basically tore down forests and jungles to build like concrete, skyscrapers. That's kind of the problem. And there's been some arguments for, vertical farming and ways to kind of collect CO2 from the atmosphere and using plants and algae. Those are fine. But obviously, the environmentalists never gave a shit about that. They were just using CO2 because they want to go after the energy sector. They want to bankrupt and nationalize the oil and gas industry so they can seize the means of production because they're fucking communists. And now here we have scientists like actually, the earth is cooling because of CO2. So everything, the entire central argument, like everything all this is built on, all these cap and trade and all this CO2 and all this bullshit, it's all bullshit. All of it. Every single iota of it is bullshit.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, right? Like, if the CO2 in the air is like trying to like they're saying it's gonna block out the sun or whatever, right? And it's like, is it colder or is it hotter when it's cloudy?
It's cold. Well,
colder.
also, you know what's funny? Okay, remember how they were trying to ban meat because of cow farts, and they're they're shutting down farms because of nitrogen fertilizers. Look up the contents of air. I want you to look up. Don't tell me. I want you to open up a tab. I want you to type in what is air made of. It's not. Most of it isn't oxygen. You might be surprised that most of the air you breathe isn't oxygen. It's a different chemical. So so put that in the back of your mind. They're trying to ban nitrogen fertilizer because it's bad for the environment.
You didn't want me to say it?
No, don't say it. Let them figure it out for themselves. But now the other thing is, so Europe is suffering a natural gas shortage, right? And they're also trying to ban methane gas because it's a horrible pollutant that causes global warming. I want you to look up what natural gas is made of. Don't say it. It's your homework. I want you to look up what actual chemicals natural gas is. What type of gas is it? And once you look up what air is made of, and then you notice they're trying to ban nitrogen fertilizer, then you look up what natural gas is made of, and they're trying to ban methane from cow farts or something, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? None of this makes sense. Like, of course it makes no sense.
It's not supposed to make sense.
It's not supposed to. It's communism. Communism isn't supposed to make sense. It's supposed to starve and enslave and kill you. So,
methane is the answer, by the way.
See, what you didn't let them discover it on their own. See, there's a moment like when you're told the answer, you don't. But when you tell them the right answer, they don't learn. You got to get them to like actually connect those dots and activate those almonds for themselves. So yeah, okay. So Halsey ruined it. Natural gas is just farts. Okay, now the cat's out of the bag. So I'd like to see some movement on this. I have a plan that will not only generate safe and renewable green energy and natural gas, but will also solve our homeless and unemployment problem and our obesity problem. And I call it putting poor people on hamster. Yeah, so what we do is we get giant hamster wheels and we put tubes up the poor people's asses and we make them run on the hamster wheels. And that's it. That's my plan. Hamster wheels and tubes up the asses, and we harness their natural gas. We feed them Mexican food. So it's like all the Taco Bell you can eat. So we have unlimited Taco Bell. It's like Demolition Man. We got Taco Bell for all the poor people to eat, and they run on the hamster wheels, and they have tubes up their ass to collect their farts. And now we have clean, renewable green energy. Plus, they're getting exercise, and you'll pay them. Like give them a cut for the electricity they're generating. Like, you pay your power company, don't you? So, like, obviously you got to deduct the Taco Bell. So we deduct the cost of the Taco Bell from their pay. But they'll get a paycheck. And you know what? Anyone can do it. Even if you're disabled, you could turn a crank. You can basically sit in your wheelchair with a tube up your ass and turn a crank if you don't have any legs or something. But you know what? There we go. Clean, renewable energy, clean, renewable natural gas. No homeless, unemployed people, no fat people. We solve our health problems, our unemployment, our homelessness. Give everybody a job, a tube in every ass. A chicken in every pot. That's my plan. Vote for me. TFM in 2024. Put a tube in the poor people's assholes and harness their natural gas. All right. On that note.
Are we just gonna put TF Monkey on there?
We'll put them on the tubes. Time for your tube up the ass with like a big smiling monkey on it.
Yep. Engrave it.
Here comes the airplane. All right. Okay. Let's do some super. Okay. Our next article is kind of dark, so let's kind of transition slowly into it. Let's do a couple super chats just to kind of as a palate cleanser.
Lala Duty donated $5. Useful idiots and useless eaters go hand in hand when it comes to the cathedral getting power. Useful idiots as their soldiers and useless eaters as their voters, both die because the useful idiots can turn against them and the useless eaters will just continue consuming their resources.
Indeed.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I disagree with none of that.
Lucifer333 donated $5. Halsey is wrong. Down syndrome people have 3 chromosome pairs and are therefore not fertile, they were never sterilized. That is a lie. The Danish government has a proposal to pay low IQ people 5k per month for life if they get sterilized, by choice. That is a good way to get rid of normies and scum.
Well, no, they were aborting. I remember the article, so he's not lying. They were aborting Downies. So it wasn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, like they were encouraging it, but I don't think they were forcing them to get aborted.
I thought they made it a law. Like if you have and here's the thing, the reason why is because they have free healthcare. So if you have free healthcare,
yeah, I mean, like
the government's
yeah,
like what they're doing with
a smart thing to do,
right? So basically, now if they could say, oh, you could have your Downy baby, but you're gonna have to pay all their healthcare costs, or you can have an abortion and keep your free healthcare. Everyone's gonna be like, okay, I'll do that because I don't want to lose my free healthcare.
The article is from Iceland, and it says, what kind of society do you want to live in inside the country where Down syndrome is disappearing? And it's all about how they basically have no more Down syndrome because they screen women while they're pregnant and tell them the chances their kid is going to be Down syndrome, and then they encourage them to abort if they are.
Right. So it's not like they're sterilizing the Downies; they're aborting the Downies. The Downies are never born.
Yeah.
And this is you're seeing this in Canada right now. The ultimate conclusion of free healthcare is death panels and euthanasia, where the government, because look, healthcare is a resource which isn't infinite. So you have to ration healthcare, and if you make it free, you have infinite demand. So you ration it by, need. If you're if you're young and productive, the government's going to keep you alive. But if you're old, they're going to kill you because you're not doing anything productive in their eyes anymore.
Yeah, it's like, Mr. Thomas, I see you came in here for some back pain. We're a little low on medication. Have you heard about our euthanasia plan, though?
That happened. Some woman called.
That's what happens right now.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah, that's not a meme. Yeah, a woman wanted a stair lift installed in her home, and because here's the thing,
wouldn't you rather die? Come on, you'd rather die, right?
When you eliminate the price system and you have infinite demand, you have to ration resources. So usually they do wait lists. You want something? Sure. Free as the air. You doesn't have to wait 15 years. If you survive 15 years without it, we'll give it to you, but only if you survive that long, type of thing. That's how they ration these limited resources in a world of infinite demand because it's free. The other thing they do is they use euthanasia to kind of like push people through the door. Now, they don't use euthanasia in the military, but what they do in the military, because healthcare is free in the military, and anyone in the military can vouch for this, what they do is they give you 800 milligram Motrin, we call them jelly beans, and they tell you to hydrate.
Sprain your ankle? Motrin.
Yeah, Motrin and hydrate. That's what they do. Now, why do they do that? It's because they're just trying to move the line along, because it's free. They don't have any incentive to actually give you comprehensive care. They just want to keep the line moving. So no matter what's wrong with you, Motrin, hydrate. And then maybe they'll give you LLD, which is light limited duty if you're like really fucked up. But that's about it. That's free healthcare. Free healthcare is dog shit because it sounds good. Like, I understand healthcare is expensive. No one wants to go bankrupt. And now, what's funny is healthcare wasn't that unaffordable before Obamacare. Obamacare quadrupled the price of healthcare because it forced people with pre-existing conditions to be able to get healthcare, which made the people with pre-existing conditions, it's cheaper for them to get healthcare, but for everyone else, it's cheaper for them to go without healthcare. So Obamacare was horrible, but good luck repealing it. Like, we just keep breaking our system, and then the only reason why we have the one thing that I think is bad is employer-provided healthcare. Having your healthcare tied to your job is dumb because people change jobs. People change jobs all the time, and if you are sick and then change jobs or become an entrepreneur, well, now you have a pre-existing condition. But if you were allowed to have your own healthcare from the beginning that you paid for yourself for years, you wouldn't have lost your healthcare when you changed jobs. Do you know why we have employer-provided healthcare? Because of FDR. FDR, during the Great Depression, thought that if he put a ceiling on wages, it would help lower unemployment. But all it did was it forced companies to find creative ways to compensate their employees other than pay because of FDR. So they created employer-provided health care as a benefit in lieu of pay, and it just stuck around. And so, like, basically, it's a long history of the government creating problems and then creating worse problems to solve the problems they created. And now here we are with fucking euthanasia and death panels and, like, and all of this is caused by the government. This is the government, because people want free shit, and the government creates a problem, and they have to keep, like, whack-a-mole, solving all these problems they're causing with more problems, and now they're murdering people. So it's like, I hope your free healthcare worked out. All right. Okay, let's move on. Okay, this article's kind of dark, so strap in. We're going to have a pretty hard tonal shift. So in Australia, and I know Voodoo, you said you had all the details on this. So a dude basically went in to live with his brother kind of off-grid. According to the article, the family reported him as missing. And these cops came to check in on him, and these guys were like preppers. So they saw the cops coming, and they just opened fire and just shot cops. Now, there were 4 cops. 2 of them got away. 2 of them were killed. And then the SWAT team came and killed everyone. So all the people involved are dead.
So, yeah, unfortunately, I don't... Like, Australian cops are pretty good, apart from when they're beating protesters. But... these 2 cops were actually, like, one of them was deputized, like, last month, and the other one, the female, was deputized last year. So, yeah, like, you know, there's, like, they basically got ambushed. There was no way for them to get out of it. They basically just walked up the stairs and got blasted.
Right, so now it goes into this guy's history. So he was a former principal. He used to work at a school, but he basically was trying to go off grid. Like, you know, like I talk about, you know, you go off grid, you have a cabin. So him and his brother, so he has a brother who has a wife. So his brother and his wife have like this off grid homestead, and he went to go live with his brother, which is fine. He basically was just noping out of society. Nothing wrong with that. The problem is, for some reason, his family reported him missing. So I don't know if he just didn't tell them. He didn't or he didn't want to tell them where he was going because he wanted to basically just leave them behind. But they were...
No, this 100% was them making a call, because Australia has also been like they've been pushing this, like, you know, if you have anybody who you think is being suspicious or, you know, is acting funny, you know, and it could lead to any sort of revolt or government action or any sort of terrorist organization, you need to report them now. And it's like basically just trying to convince you to turn your own fucking family in and friends in.
Well, I mean, if that was the case, why not just report them for that? It's like, hey, my sibling.
Well, here's the thing. That's what they're saying in the article. That's what they're saying in the article.
The article is saying that he was reported as missing by his family, but he was living with his brother.
Yeah.
So he moved in with his brother. Doesn't make sense. And his family reported him as missing. Now, because this was like a prepper house, they had shit tons of guns. And then the cops are...
fuck ton of guns.
Yeah, and the cops are coming to like...
a lot of ammunition and weaponry.
Yeah, and also it was 4 cops. So if it was just, hey, we're looking for this guy who's reported missing, 4 cops just to check, and it was the brother. Like, why didn't they call?
Yeah, like, hey, they also apparently honked twice on arrival, to let them know that they were there.
I don't think the cops were there to like take their guns. However, here's the problem: if you open up your door to a cop and they see something, they can basically just act on the situation. So I don't know if they had all their guns visible, where if they, you know, like, let's
100%. Like, well, the 2 officers got blasted literally as they're walking up the steps.
Right. So I don't like these cops were just doing their job. I don't like, that's always the case. The cops who are going to come to your house to take your guns or arrest you for some bullshit, they have no idea who you are. They're just following orders. They're just, you know, trying to provide. It's unfortunate. there's nothing in this article talking about how this guy was accused of any crime.
They also mentioned that he kept pursuing the cheating row with education officials. I don't know what that means.
He apparently his girlfriend or wife cheated on him and got him fired from, because he used to be a principal, and I guess during the divorce or something, something happened, and he was either suing them or he was trying to do something. Like, he used to be a principal. There was some cheating regarding his significant other, and so he wanted to nope out of society. He's like, you know what? Fuck all this shit. And he moved in with his brother and his wife on their off-grid cabin, and they were just prepping for the apocalypse. And then these 4 cops show up because his family reported him missing, even though he was living with his brother. So now I brought this up because let's go over some lessons we could take away from this. Number one, no, this may be bullshit. I don't know if this article is lying or if that's just the official narrative. But honest, like, if you're going to go off grid, tell your family you're going to go off grid. Don't make them call the police looking for you because you've gone missing and they think like wolves ate you or something. I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty confident this was a call from his like leftist family members saying like, "Oh, he's a prepper. You know, he's going to do something."
Yeah,
they have a lot of weapons there.
Part, like, if it was just a leftist relative, wouldn't they make the police report about like something more?
No,
serious, like
absolutely
not.
No, the police are no. So yes, so we don't like this. Whenever something doesn't make sense, somebody's lying. So what's most likely is he had a go ahead.
So I was hearing this on the radio and on the TV, right? That apparently he was charged with a kidnapping, sort of like charge from New South Wales, which doesn't make sense at all. Like, apparently he fled from New South Wales with a kidnapped teacher, and that's why the cops were showing up at his place. And then it swapped to this narrative now, and this was only like yesterday that I heard that he was like some sort of kidnapping thing. This was like when it was breaking, you know, it was like 2 guys kidnapped a teacher, and then cops were killed, and they killed all 3 of them in the attack.
Well,
but
the teacher
I don't know
was
what's going on.
So the teacher was the guy. He was the guy. So maybe they thought the guy kidnapped his own brother, because the kidnapped teacher was the guy who shot the cops. It was the guy, his brother, and the wife just opened fire on these cops. So obviously his brother didn't kidnap him. He was there basically moving in with him. So again, when shit doesn't make sense, somebody's lying. Now we don't know. We don't know who made the call.
If the cops were responding to a kidnap claim, they would have showed up with the SWAT team right from the get-go.
Yeah, they wouldn't have sent 4 beat cops to honk their horn like, "Hey, kidnappers, we're here for that teacher. We're here.
Ready or not.
I'm going to shoot you."
Yeah. So, he also apparently, So this is from the article as well. It emerged that Gareth Train was a conspiracy theorist who hated cops and believed the infamous Australian massacre was a false flag operation. He claimed that the Port Arthur massacre, which is the one that got us to disarm and basically just handing all of our guns, the big gun buyback of like 19 something, was designed to disarm. Not 96, yeah. I should remember it's my birth year. It was designed to disarm the Australian population, and bizarrely asserted that the government was running re-education camps.
I mean, Australia literally built concentration camps.
It's all true. It's all true.
Everything he said is more or less true, and this is the same country that built concentration camps during COVID. So it's not like, oh, how dare you think your government is building concentration camps just because we're building concentration camps. But not for that. We're building concentration camps for this completely different reason. Anyway, so this guy, there's clearly some bullshit happening, because he clearly wasn't kidnapped. If he also shot the cops and was later killed by the SWAT team, with his brother. Like none of that makes sense. So the story of he was reported missing, that makes no sense too. So he was I don't know why they sent, like, if this was a raid, why send 4 beat cops?
But here's the thing. They're in the middle of fucking nowhere, though. They're in the middle of a remote part of Queensland, right? That means, like, they're inland. That means, like, there is not... I'm surprised the cops even showed up. 4 of them in rural Queensland?
Well, and that's the thing. Like,
it doesn't just happen for a random thing. They were there for something.
Right, so, well, they were there probably to, like, look around the place, and if they were just there because, hey, your family reported you missing, they could have called. It's his brother. Like, hey, do you have so-and-so living with you right now? Could we talk to him? His family reported him missing. Like,
Right.
They didn't have, like, and to send 4 none of this makes sense. So,
like, unless, like, the brother didn't have, like, a phone for them to reach him, and that's why they sent 4 people just in case, because it's technically a missing person report.
Yeah, so now so we don't know all the facts. There's probably some
person. The Australian police get missing, especially in rural Queensland. They get missing person calls every fucking day, every day. So, like, this is, like, there is something else going on here, 110%.
Well, I
bet my fucking next paycheck on it.
Well, it was probably because it's like Waco. They had a lot of guns, and they basically either sent these cops knowingly into an ambush just to have the excuse to push their shit in and kill them, or maybe they didn't realize that they had that many guns, but they knew they had some guns. Because again, and I don't know how Australia works, but if you open your door to a cop and the cop sees something illegal, they can immediately, like, they don't even need a warrant. They can just be like, oh, I see something back there, and they can just force their way into the house.
No, that's not how it works in Australia. Basically, you don't have to open the door for the cops at all. You can just talk to them through the screen door, and they can't. They 100% need a warrant to come into the house, or they have to be allowed into the house. As soon as you invite cops in, you're fucked. That's why I always talk to cops outside my house. I always open the door, shut it, and then go and talk to them. Like, they're like, if they try and look in, I'm like, no, what are you doing? There's no reason for you. There's no suspicion for you to be looking inside my house.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of details missing.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot going on that is in the headlines now. But let's do a preliminary. Some lessons we could take from this. Number one, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and assume this was a missing persons case. Make sure people know you're going off grid and that, like, nothing's wrong with you. You're going to go off grid because you want to become one with nature, and that's it. Like, now if you have leftist relatives who are like, oh, Bob went to go live in the woods and he's gone crazy, go check on him, Mr. Cop. I don't know what to tell you. If you basically stop talking to your family, piss them off at Thanksgiving so they cut all ties with you. That way nobody will call the fucking cops on you when you decide to leave to your homestead. If the cops come to your homestead, if they're not wearing body armor with automatic weapons, if they're just beat cops honking their horn, do not light them up. Like, maybe see what they want. Like, oh, hey, what can I help you, officer? Like, what can I help you with? That kind of thing. Now, if you see, like, SWAT vans showing up and they got, like, tactical gear, they're coming to kill you. So.
And also, their next door neighbor was killed as well. When he heard the shots, he came running, and they just lit him up as well.
Well, yeah, because they don't know. They just assumed that, like, the neighbor was part of the ambush.
So
who lit up the neighbor? The cops or the brothers?
I'm almost sure the cops did. Now they said he was killed in the crossfire.
The brothers killed him. I'm pretty sure. But
I don't know about that.
I heard 6 people dead. Not 3.
Well, there's 6 people. So there's the brother, his wife, and the teacher, the 2 cops, and the neighbor. So that's 6 people.
Yeah, that makes 6. Yeah.
Anyway, so okay.
I can't count. I'm
it's-
legally retarded.
It's okay. You probably got a little Aboriginal in your DNA or something. Anyway, so, you know, if you got to be careful. I understand you want to prepare for hard times. You know, you buy an off-grid cabin, but you got to, like, you could have a couple weapons, but if you go overboard and you start flagging FBI watch lists and shit, the cops are going to come to your house because they're like, why are you buying so many weapons? You know, it's your constitutional right to buy as many weapons as you want, but just be aware that when you buy a lot of weapons, particularly in a short amount of time, cops are going to pay you a visit. Is that a violation of the Second Amendment? Probably. It's probably a violation of the Fourth Amendment too. But that's the world we live in. Like, we can all bitch and moan about how
the Fourth Amendment?
Basically unreasonable searches and seizures, where the government can basically come and search your house just on a hunch when they don't have a warrant or anything. So just be aware.
I'm pretty confident Australia has a constitution. I haven't read it.
I don't know, but I'm talking about lessons learned for Americans and other Western countries. Just don't go overboard on the weapons.
Don't light up police officers when you see them.
Yeah, look see what they want. Now, also, don't do anything illegal. Now, there's nothing in this. Now, they're saying something about a kidnapping, but clearly the article's talking about missing person. So don't do anything illegal. You could have weapons, especially if you live in a remote property. There is wildlife that you might have to defend yourself from, particularly in Australia. So, I mean, they have like giant man-eating spiders, like you might need a gun. So
you wouldn't use a gun on those. Just use a rake or a shovel. That'll do.
I don't know. I've seen movies, man, with giant spiders. Like, your rake isn't going to do shit. Anyway, the point is, if
those things have health bars.
If the cops come to check out your guns, maybe they're infringing on your rights a little bit, but just play it cool. Just before now. The problem is there are instances of no-knock warrants. There are instances of cops just escalating to the nth degree. Like, you go out there to talk to them and they're drawing weapons on you, and you don't know why, or they're just fucking executing you. Like you're on the ground with your arms spread and they just pop you in the head, and that's all she wrote. So and unfortunately cops do that, and there's no accountability. So it's a crapshoot. Like,
cops
there are
corrupt.
Well,
speaking of that, Indiana actually passed a law stating that now, if the police are acting unlawful, you can defend yourself from the police.
Yeah, you can shoot them.
Well, because
shoot them on your property.
Here's this is pissing me off. I hate no-knock warrants, because what you have cops breaking into your house. You have no idea that they're cops. All you know is someone's breaking into your house. So you wake up, grab your gun to defend your family, and then a SWAT team comes and lights you up like a Christmas tree because they felt threatened because you had a gun in your hand. Well, dipshit, if you told me you were a cop, I wouldn't have grabbed my gun. But because you broke into my goddamn house at 2 a.m, I thought you were coming to murder me and rape my wife. So I reached for my gun, and then you fucking blow me to hell. And that's perfectly fine as far as the cops are concerned. They don't give a shit, and it pisses me off.
I only had one no-knock warrant happen to me when I was younger. That shit was scary. They came in with sledgehammers and literally fucking nailed 3 doors off at once.
Well, yeah.
Just completely blew them off the hinges.
Right, so it's a problem. The system is corrupt, and you're going to have people... And we don't know the truth of what chain of events led to this. And I'm not even sure, if there is many lessons to be learned by this. Because, if you just blindly trust the police, that could backfire on you.
Well, here's the thing. Just don't light up cops.
Well, yeah, well, but I think they jumped the gun just opening fire on some cops after they honked, and they clearly weren't wearing I don't know, if they were wearing body armor. It shows these pictures which are clearly
all cops wear body armor.
Well, but if they were just showing up in their regular patrol outfit, they're not wearing
the patrol outfit has body armor.
Well, if they're coming to kill you, they're going to be wearing helmets, and they're going to have their rifles and everything.
Yeah, no.
They're not going to come. Yeah, they might have a Kevlar vest under their little uniform, but if they're coming to fucking grease you, they're going to come in body armor. like actual, like when the SWAT comes to grease, when the
Like-
SWAT
like
came and
actual
greased these
SWAT
people.
armor.
Well, the SWAT did come in and kill these people afterwards. So it didn't.
Well,
you know,
as a special operation, a special operations officer came in and took them out. Basically, they just used probably snipers and just got them.
Okay, well, whatever. Anyway, so it's a sad end, and we don't really know what happened regarding what triggered this chain of events. It could have been a leftist family member, reporting him. It could have been a missing person. It could have been someone who just forgot that he told them, "Hey, I'm leaving," or maybe he forgot to tell someone. Maybe someone tried to call him for Thanksgiving and he didn't answer the phone, so they called the police, and it triggered this event. So make sure you tell your family that you're leaving, or cut ties with your family ahead of time. Tell your family to fuck off, and then don't talk to them. And that way, when you leave, no one's going to report you as missing because you don't talk to them in the first place. And then if the cops come and they're just be cordial, answer their questions. You don't have to you don't have to let them in your house or anything. Unfortunately, that could itself be a setup. Like, they could lure you out and they could arrest you because we have reason to believe you're a domestic terrorist, and they could, that could be it. And you're just out there in the boonies, just minding your own business, and then cops got sicked on you because you bought one too many guns in the last 30 days. So yeah, there really isn't a clear path through something like this. But yeah, they're all dead. These cops are dead. The neighbor's dead. It's an unfortunate situation, and unfortunately, it's probably not going to be the last time this sort of thing happens. Because there's other people, there's a lot of preppers who just want to be left alone, and I don't know, if they start targeting preppers and start rolling up onto their fucking compound with SWAT teams, these preppers probably have defenses set up. And if they're already paranoid about the government coming for them during the collapse, and then SWAT teams are showing up to make sure they're not a danger, they're going to start activating their defenses. And you're going to have fucking mines going off and bear traps and shit. It's maybe just leave these people alone. Maybe some people just want to be left the fuck alone. Maybe leave them alone.
A little bit more information. So apparently the gunmen were dressed in camouflage. And also after they killed the two cops, they went up to their bodies, took their guns, and then fired more bullets into their bodies after they were dead.
Yeah, I mean, look,
what the fuck?
That's really not a what the fuck. That's yeah, that's what you do. I'm just saying, that's what you're supposed to do. So I'll just, but the thing is, he wasn't even wanted for a crime. He wasn't
apparently he was just reported missing by his family.
Yeah, so he
weird.
Yeah, that's weird. That is weird. So there might be a cover-up going on to try to, now that this tragedy happened, they're trying to, cover their tracks. I don't know.
There's only two stories. There's only two websites that have articles on it. One is a paywall and one is the Sun article.
Yeah. Well, look. Yeah. You don't assume. Don't just light cops up who check in on you. They could just... If this was simply a missing person and some family member forgot, or he forgot to tell them he was going off grid with his brother, and this is a horrible tragedy, then that sucks. Or if this is a cover-up and they were out there because of his, maybe he said something on a web forum and they thought, oh, we got an anti-government conspiracy nut, we're going to go check out his compound to make sure he doesn't have any guns. If that's what they were doing, if they were going to basically scope the place out and then report back in, and this is all basically a chain of events, well, then, they basically just ripped the Band-Aid off at that point. So it's...
Is he armed? Yep. They found out with the lives of a man, a woman, and a woman. And
right. So, yeah, their story, the official story doesn't make sense, so I think they're lying. Because whenever something makes no goddamn sense, somebody's lying. But we don't know. It just... I don't know. They're probably using this as an excuse to crack down on preppers. And preppers aren't the kinds of people
guns. as well.
Well, in Australia, but I'm talking like preppers in general. Like preppers are not the kinds of people who take to crackdowns easily. Like their whole lifestyle is preparing for.
I was about to say, are you trying to say they're prepared?
Well, no, but like their whole lifestyle. Well, yes, they're preparing, but they're preparing for specifically this.
Yep.
They have these off-grid compounds riddled with guns in the exact scenario that the government is coming for them. Now, they don't commit crimes, they don't bother anyone because they're just trying to live their life in peace. But if the government's like, we got to crack down on these preppers, it's like, that's a horribly bad idea. That's and once preppers get wind that the government is going to these prepper houses and icing these people,
they disappear.
Well, or they're going to line their house.
They'll join up, and you'll see that every prepper house they come to has 80 people in it.
Or
Armed
it's going to be
teeth and prepared for years.
Yeah.
Or every house you go to do a no-knock warrant is lined with C4.
Yep.
And you fucking you smash the door in with your sledgehammer, and then you hear a beep, and then the entire fucking house explodes and takes everything out in a 3-block radius. Like, these are the last people. Like, they're not hurting anyone. Leave them the fuck alone. They will not go quietly. Like,
especially in Australia. Like, imagine if these guys survived a little bit longer than 4 hours, because that's how long it was, by the way. It was a shootout for 4 hours. So the cops showed up at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and then the shootout didn't stop until about 7 or 8 p.m.
Yep. So you know,
that's a lot of time
that's
to
how long it
relocate.
took. Yeah.
That's like that's like Las Vegas shooter levels of bullets right there.
Yeah. So apparently they did send out SWAT, and you can see from the photo that there's like 7 or 8 bullet holes in the windscreen of the Humvee. If you wanted me to post that.
No, it's fine. Okay, we got to move on because my second alarm just went off, so we have precious little time.
Yep.
All right,
Let's
blow through the articles, and we'll try to get to as many super chats as possible. If we don't get to your super chat, we'll cover it on Saturday. All right, next article. This is from the BBC. Andrew Tate, I fear online influencer radicalized my son. Now, here's what I think is interesting. Number one, Andrew Tate's kind of like, again, he's like me, but like the milquetoast kind of safe things I used to say back before I, stopped giving a shit. He's like kind of like watered down version of me, which is fine. Like a watered down version of me is still pretty impressive. But
he also doesn't want to take women's rights away. Womp,
see,
womp.
but he wants to be Muslim. Muslims get to beat their wives, and so it's like he's just not saying it the way I say it.
Yeah, but he doesn't. He doesn't like. Yeah.
That's the bridge too far.
He's very traditional. Let's just put it that way. Traditional conservative.
So there's in this article, there's this mom who has a 15-year-old son who got a call from his teacher. Now, they never say what he said. They said there was an incident, in air quotes, involving a female teacher, that it made the teacher squirm, and they didn't punish the boy because they realized he came from a good household and he's been influenced by this Andrew Tate influencer. But they never say what he said, and it's probably because what he said was factually true, and just kind of pissed off the feminist, hive mind, but nothing he said was actually wrong or incorrect. So it's just one of those like, oh, he said that? Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. That's so misogynist. Like, is he wrong? Well, no, but I don't want to hear him say that. That's not what a 15-year-old should say. And it's like, well, so first of all, okay, let me just cut to the chase. Do not talk about red pill shit in public. Particularly in somewhere like public school, which is full, like 99% of teachers are women, and they're all Democrats, and they all work for the government. They're all feminists. That's the last place you should be talking about red pill stuff. You want to talk about it? You want to talk about it like on social media with your friends or on Xbox Live or something?
Talk about it on Merovingian Club.
Yeah, right. But don't talk about it at school where your feminist teacher can overhear. And I think it's funny that they don't even say what he said. They don't even quote the thing he said that was so horrible. They just kind of talk around it. Like it was so horrible, it must not be named. and they're blaming Andrew Tate. And once again, the answer is also we got to censor, we got to silence, we got to protect the children. Yeah, so remember the first 2 rules of Fight Club. Don't talk about Fight Club, and the second rule of Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club. Ghost in plain sight. You tell people what they expect to hear, you show people what they expect to see, and you move on with your life. You can talk about red pill stuff when you're basically anonymous, online, where you don't have to worry about reprisals, because this is why they want to get rid of internet anonymity. They really want to force you to... They talk this shit like, oh, you should be able to stand by what you say. Go fuck yourself. You just want to fucking get me debanked and ruin my life.
Yeah.
Well, you should be accountable. That's not accountability. That you don't like what I had to say, and you don't want me to say it anymore, so you want to ruin my life. Not prove me wrong. Not any kind of counter argument. You want to ruin my life for saying something you don't like. That's not accountability. That's just censorship and whatever.
We use monikers.
Right, that's why we are anonymous. And never go to MGTOW meetups or any kind of in-person anything where they'll dox you. Because you can't undox yourself. If you go somewhere where you get doxed, even if it's someone you like one of your friends wants to hang out with you in real life, if you hang out with him and he knows who you are, you may not be friends in the future. Like, look what happened between me and DDJ. Just out of nowhere, stabbed me in the back. So you don't want to just assume you're always going to be friends with people and dox yourself to them, because you may not be friends. And then they'll use the fact that they know who you are as leverage, and they might sell you out, or they might spread your dox. I know CS MGTOW got doxed by his brother.
Really?
His brother, yeah, his brother sold him out because he didn't like what he had to say. Ruined his... Like, think about this. You ruined your own brother's life because you didn't like what he had to say about feminism. Imagine being that big of a piece of shit.
I was about to say, I don't think the douchebaggery gets bigger than that.
Yeah, anyway, so I feel bad for this kid who has a cunt of a mom and goes to a cunt school and just surrounded by cunts all day. But my dude, you gotta just remember the first 2 rules of Fight Club and don't talk about this shit within earshot of your feminist teachers.
I'm pretty sure he said something to the teacher, because I know for a fact there's been a lot of like Australian teachers and kids who have been like sort of parroting what Andrew has been saying.
No, it says quote. No, it says quote. It says him and other boys were repeat. It says it quote. We're repeating the views of a controversial online influencer, Andrew Tate, to make the teacher squirm. So it was him talking to other boys in the class, and she could hear it. So they weren't like telling her like, you need to get back in the kitchen and make me a sandwich, bitch. It was like, I don't know what they don't even say what he said. They're not even saying what he said that was so bad it made her squirm. They're just leaving it unsaid so that your imagination can fill in the blanks. But Andrew Tate ain't shit. He's not like, his opinions are just kind of me. It's like a watered down version of me. And I don't think I'm not advocating any kind of anything violent or extreme. I'm just trying to help people. But I'm being blunt because that's what people need. If you want like watered down MGTOW, that's what Sandman or Joker. I mean, no offense to them. They have to do that to stay on YouTube. So this isn't like a judgment against their content. It's just that's what you have to do to stay on YouTube. You have to water it down. You can't be blunt about... You can't give them, like, concentrated red pill. They can't take it. Their little blue pill bodies will shut down. So anyway, okay. All right, next article. So this is from The Sun. Fury as Cambridge Dictionary updated definition of word woman. So they updated the word woman to mean, quote, an adult who lives and identifies as female, though they may have been said to have a different sex at birth. So they've officially changed the definition of woman to be trans inclusive, which is fine. Here's the problem. This is something, I'm not going to answer the question because I don't know the answer. It doesn't matter. So you change the definition of man and woman to be trans friendly. The reality of people with penises and vaginas and people with X chromosomes and Y chromosomes is still going to be present. And we're going to have some word to describe those people. Whatever word we use to describe those people who will continue to exist will simply be the new word for man and woman.
Exactly. So pretty soon we'll have man and women and mutilated freaks.
Well, speaking of which, welcome to Mutant League Hockey with our last article.
Yeah, right. I saw this.
Remember Mutant League Hockey on Genesis? So here we have. Now this shows you, no matter how much tranny bullshit you tolerate, women are women and men are men. So this is from the Daily Mail. Shocking moment: female to male transgender ice hockey player is tackled to the ground and concussed by much larger male to female rival at controversial NHL back tournament. So they had an all tranny Mutant League Hockey exhibition team where every player was trans. So there were girls who took testosterone to become boys, and there were boys who took estrogen to become girls. A trans woman, a male to female trans woman, body checked a female to male trans man and gave him a concussion. And now the Daily Mail, the Daily Mail is basically coming to his aid, because at the end of the day, let me show you the picture. This is the female to male trans man. Now, sure, from the outside, it looks like kind of your garden variety soy boy. He kind of looks like Sargon if he smiled more. So here's like Smiley Sargon. He's a female to male trans man. He got knocked the fuck out by Mongo, the trans woman, and everyone's like, oh, this poor woman, how could this larger trans woman just knock the shit out of this trans man? It just goes to show you, it doesn't matter. Like, here's Sargon, Smiley Sargon, getting body checked by Mongo. Does it show what Mongo looks like? I don't think it does. But Mongo knocked fucking...
Scroll down.
I'm surprised the article didn't say somewhere, and the end result was someone who made fun of this whole situation went to jail for hate speech.
Well, the point is like, even in a all tranny, like, this is the thing. People say, well, the trannies should just have their own league. You know, like, you shouldn't let trans women compete against girls because you have like guys who were like the 72nd in the male league become world record breaking female athletes. They went from like the bottom of the barrel to the #1 world record holder just by changing leagues to the female league. So even if you create an all tranny league, you create literal Mutant League Hockey, you're going to have trans women knocking the fuck out of trans men because they have... Oh, we haven't done this in a while. Let's break it out.
The hormone of the gods.
I love that quote. Can you send me that sound drop?
Yeah, that's fine. I made it myself. I basically recorded it and slowed the audio down, and I set it to like a He-Man clip. Not the new He-Man from Netflix, but like the 2003, which is actually really good. Like, they tried to remake He-Man in the early 2000s, and it was really good. And they canceled it after like 2 seasons, and then they tried to remake it on Netflix and made it all woke and dog shit, and they made Tila a lesbian. Fucking, I hate culture. I hate everything about current year fucking girl boss bullshit. That's why I just stopped watching TV. Just, I can't take it anymore.
It will fail soon, don't worry.
All right, so that's our show. Let's how much time do we have? We have time for a couple super chats. We're probably not going to get to them all, but we'll try to get through as many as possible. We got 4 minutes.
Sam Sneed donated $5. Ted Kaczynski will end up being vindicated in the end. We are eventually gonna run out of fossil fuels, which means no more plastics because we still can't recycle them effectively, and no more long-range transport and power stations. This will destroy liberal democracy, globalism, and also capitalism, and we will go back to pre-industrial society. BTW, there have been some news about nuclear fusion, but that is still a pipe dream like artificial wombs and will not get them anytime soon.
So the problem is
you do realize nuclear fission reactors are a thing, right?
Well, but also this idea that without capitalism we can't have democracy. You know, the Greeks and the Romans had democracy.
Right.
So you don't need capitalism and modern industrialization to have democracy. They have nothing to do with each other. Now, you can't have...
Even like the Persians had like a communist movement. Now the king put that down.
Well, you had the Optimaris and the Popularis in the Roman Republic and all that. Anyway, now, I think when he means liberal democracy, what you mean is the progressive cathedral. Yes, the progressive cathedral was built on the back of the Industrial Revolution, not because of industrialization, but because it exacerbated perceived inequality. And I think me and Halsey talked about this a while ago. We did like a show back in when you have agriculture economies, poor people and rich people don't seem that different because everybody's a farmer. The poor farmer and the rich farmer, they don't see each other as completely different classes. But when you have workers and capitalists, there's a very stark difference in like lifestyle. Like you're on the factory floor and the capitalist guy is in the office having a meeting. That's a very different workload. Now, if you've ever run a business, you might realize, oh, those meetings and, all that running the business, it may seem like easy work because I'm just sitting at a desk all day, but it actually is a lot of work to run a business. But they can't appreciate that because they just look at like physical exertion equals work. So if you're sitting behind a desk, having meetings, answering emails, getting invoices together, that's not real work as far as, because they're stupid. Anyway, yes, so industrialization isn't really going away. Fossil fuels aren't really going away. We could turn trash into fuel. It's expensive, but, fossil fuels are still the top banana when it comes to energy. Without energy, you don't have people. Like, there's no way to sustain a global population of several billion people without cheap energy. There isn't. So that's fine. You want to camp? You want to be a hippie? Go for it. I don't care. But just practice what you preach. Like the Amish are going to be fine, but who wants to live like the Amish? Clearly not you, because here you are on the internet. You're clearly don't want to be. That's what I always get. Like the people who talk about capitalism's bad and industrialization's bad and we need traditional families, particularly German families, Christian families. Like, why aren't you Amish? They're literally
Why not
Christians.
just join the Mennonites?
Well, the Amish are literally German Christians who eschew technology and live very traditional, religious lives, and nobody's beating a path to become Amish, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, like, why don't you join one of these Mennonite colonies in South America and fuck off to the rainforest?
Well, and the Mennonites, the Mennonites are kind of Amish adjacent. They don't eschew technology to the level the Amish do. They're a very good kind of like in between. They're like the half elves of the Amish. Like you can kind of get in with the Mennonites, but no one does that either. All right, let's get through. How are we doing? Oh shit, man! Then we blew through all 4 minutes. We didn't even get through a single one.
Sam Sneed donated $5. TFM tries not to shit on Christians and defend Jews during a show challenge. Impossible.
I guess so. The whole Jew thing is just tiresome. I've already made the point. There are a lot of Jewish communists, and they can go fuck off, and they should die. But like Jews per se, who aren't communists, are fine. I've had too many Jewish friends. I'm not just talking about Halsey and Karoy. Like I've known Jews growing up. I had a Jewish girlfriend. They're good people with strong family values, and they believe in the same things that we all want. There's communists and they need to die, but that's them.
And aren't we always like praising like the Christian Amish and Mennonites for what they do?
Well, I do. Not everyone does. Some people think the Amish are a Jew-op too because they use Old Testament names. Because,
of course they do.
Yeah, so German Christian, particularly like in the 1800s where the Amish come from, they loved Old Testament names. They still do. If you go to Amish country, you hear a lot of Ezekiels and Jebediahs and stuff. And they're like, oh, see, they're Jews because they got Jewish names. Like, no, they're German Christians, and they read the Bible where those names are from. So it's fine. They're dumb. What can I say? You can't fix it. All you can do is walk away.
Splattenburgers donated $5. One thing I don't understand is how the elites intend to explain the unvaxxed not dying at the same rate. I believe Russia and China didn't use the same mRNA vaccine as the West, so what if they don't die? How will this be explained?
Simple. They don't. They don't talk about it.
They memory hole it. They're going to memory hole it. So you see it happening right now. People are dying of heart attacks. People are dying of gummy worms in their blood. What are they doing? They're just debunking it and they're moving on. It doesn't matter because people don't want to believe what's going on. And like they control the media, they can steal elections. Everyone is just afraid. Like the doctors who are speaking out are basically retired doctors with nothing to lose. So they don't give a shit. Or you have like Dr. Zelenko, who died the other year, rest in peace. He was basically dying. He was dying of cancer. And he's like, fuck it, I don't give a shit. I'll say what I want. So basically you have really old retired doctors who are dying of cancer speaking out because there's nothing you could take away from them. But look at the medical establishment as a whole. Most people don't fall into that camp. most people have something to lose. And so the government can use that to basically squeeze you to silence you. Remember during COVID, everyone was just following orders. Everyone was just doing what they were told. Even if they knew it was wrong, they did what they were told. That's how they do it. And they'll just, and maybe like after the fact, once everything is said and done, once the politicians who are responsible for this are all either retired or dead, and the new politicians won't be held accountable for what they did, then they'll open up the files. They'll be like, wow, Hillary Clinton killed a lot of people. But by that point, it'll be like 2045. And Hillary Clinton's going to be long dead. So, it won't matter at that point when they open up the files and admit to what they did. Look at the Hunter Biden laptop thing. They suppressed that in real time to manipulate the election. Then after Biden won, they waited 2.5 years and oh yeah, it was real. We lied.
Yep.
But when they waited 2.5 years to make sure that it wouldn't matter. So they lie to you and then they basically admit it after it doesn't matter anymore. So they'll admit decades from now, once all the politicians, once Fauci's dead and Hillary's dead and Bill Gates is dead, once all these people are dead, then they'll admit what they did. Well, they won't admit. The government will open up the files and they'll reveal, oh, wow, back in the 2020s, the government did some fucked up shit. But, I didn't do that. I wasn't even, I wasn't elected then. I was whatever. So as long as the politicians who are then in power won't be held accountable for it, they'll admit what the government did in the past. But they won't admit it as long as the politicians are still alive and accountable.
The Fed hiked 50 basis points.
Well, there you go. So there, I was right again. Now, I don't know what's going to happen, if natural gas is going to recover quickly or what. We'll find out. I got to get through this. What do we do? Oh, shit. I got to go. Man. Okay. I'm sorry.
You got to go.
I was trying to
5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I was trying to get. I was trying to get through the super chats, but unfortunately, I can't get through them. We'll do one.
Saturday's for.
I know. We'll do one more. This isn't even a super chat question. It's just a comment. So.
No Life Happy Life donated $5. Ha 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 ha. This is how Taco Bell will win the fast food wars.
There you go. So, okay. Unfortunately, that's going to be what we're going to have to leave the show on. We have 2 more super chats. We'll get to those on Saturday. I'm sorry. We didn't have enough time. Let's just have the Jesus Pimp's prayer, and then I got to go.
Jesus. Let us pray the Pimp's prayer. Lord, have mercy on the soul of this bitch. Guide my pimp hand and make it strong, Lord, that she might learn a hoe's place. Amen.
All right, amen. Okay, very quickly. Our sponsors, The Dollhouse, Wave Monkey Book, Hardly Heroes by Sheddermer Comics, and The Menu by Aaron Clary. Thank you for those who sponsored the show. Thank you for those who donated. Thank you to those who participated. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you on Saturday. Take care.
Thank you.